Okay, let's stand up. We're calling the meeting to order. It is 6:02. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have you had a chance to look at the long agenda?
No.
You haven't?
Oh goodness, there's nothing really special.
No, it should still move on. The only thing that I want everybody to be aware of is Banner, which was going to talk about the sewer project, is not available till 7:30. Oh, could somebody call Kendra and put her on the phone? And so I don't know how we would handle that. We tried to put it late in the agenda. But she is on vacation and she is, or it's time, what did I say, Tanya? I think I might have said somebody else. She is on vacation and we can't call her until at least 7:30. So
We're just gonna stick you on speaker.
just, I don't know, when we get to that point, can we just move to that if it's, we put her on up a ways.
Yeah, and then, so what do you want to do? You want to just move it
Well,
down, or?
we can't do it till 7:30.
Oh, yeah, you can move it down the agenda, that's no problem.
So I think we're pretty good. I think until we get up to that point, we should be all right. So, just so everybody's aware of that. So,
Is that Kendra?
Kendra is going to be on phone until she gets back into town. And then at 7 or so, she will come, So at this time, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Yes. Brian? Okay.
I would like to do a quick point of order. Is the vacancy for the mayor going to be addressed tonight? Do you know? Okay, so you have a candidate?
I have no idea.
Okay.
At this point, I don't know if we do.
Again, to that point of order, since the council, and you have a document that, that since nothing has been done with the resignation and/or the rescission, that you may be out of order to allow anybody to put in for the mayor position because it's not been treated the way it should have been and in the past practices. So you may want to take that back out of the agenda.
We can provide it.
Okay, we're okay.
Yeah, all right.
So that was discussion. Anybody else have anything they'd like to say? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Okay, so at this time, mayor interviews if needed. Anybody out there going to be the mayor? But instead of going into executive session, Sam is going to explain some things to us.
Sure. So, I've done some research on this issue, Austin and I have, and I've concluded that our mayor did resign. In the unlikely event that he is not considered to have resigned, Darla has been acting properly under statute that allows the president of the council to act for the mayor and as the mayor, and with the authority of the mayor when the mayor is absent. At minimum, the mayor is absent, but I believe, based on a couple of things, that he has effectively resigned. And so the first thing that I'll talk about, and this is for the members of the public, I realize there have been a lot of questions about whether his resignation was official or in effect, etc. I have not been able to find anything in our ordinances or statute or case law that says that we have adopted or that we are bound by the practice of the council voting to accept a resignation. So I haven't seen anything. It is possible, as you know, sometimes it is difficult to find things in our records. It's possible we adopted something that says we have to vote on a resignation in order for it to be accepted. But I want to start with statute, which governs aldermanic form, which is what we use, and the mayor specifically. And I'll read you a little bit about SDCL 9-8-2. It says if there's a vacancy for any cause in the office of the mayor, the vacancy shall be filled by appointment by majority vote of the alderman. And then this is the stuff I was talking about with respect to Darla. Until the vacancy is filled or during the time of temporary absence or disability of the mayor, the powers and duties of mayor are executed by the president or vice president of the council as provided in 9-8-7. So then we look at, there's a different title that governs when resignations are effective and whether or not a vacancy is created. Title 3 of the code governs that. SDCL 3-4-1 states, events causing vacancy in office. An office becomes vacant if one of the following events applies to a member of a governing body or elected officer, which would be the mayor, before the expiration of the term of office. The person, 1, dies, or 2, resigns. So that gets us to a letter of resignation that we have. That statute does not make a resignation contingent upon the acceptance or denial or a vacancy contingent upon the acceptance or denial of a resignation. It just says if a resignation occurs. So then I did some looking as to what makes a resignation effective, and one of the things that I found is an Attorney General's opinion from, I believe it was the 80s, 1982, and that is Attorney General 82-15. For those of you who are not familiar and for members of the public, there's a mechanism allowed in state statute where a municipality, a county, a township, governmental entities can request an opinion from the Attorney General's office, and they will do research and give you what they think the answer is. It's not a court opinion, it's not a court finding, but it is something that, in this case, you could hang your hat on when making a decision as a city, because there's lack of clarity around whether or not there's truly a vacancy or whether or not we have to accept the resignation. So that Attorney General's opinion states that a resignation at an effective date does not vacate the office until the date the resignation is effective. In other words, if you say that you resign effective at a date and time, that's when your resignation becomes effective. I point that out to you folks because Mr. Dreesen's resignation letter said that he resigned his position as mayor effective at 5 p.m. July 19th. And so I think when you look at the information that is available to us in statute, Attorney General opinion, and then what the resignation letter actually says, it is more likely than not that he resigned regardless of whether or not the council accepted that resignation. So then we go to the things that Darla has done, which is she's carried out the duties of the mayor. Now there's some authority that says even if somebody else is carrying out those duties, it doesn't mean that you've necessarily resigned or vacated your office. But it is something that we can consider in conjunction with the resignation on effective date. So that's where Austin and I get to the point of we believe he resigned, we believe there is a vacancy. So then the question is, well, why is that important? It's important for a couple of reasons. As you know, we are a community that has some things that are not always done right or have not always been done right in the past, and we have folks that hold our government to account and to doing things the right way, as they should, and we should try to do things the right way. So then it becomes a question of, do we take the risk of not allowing him to rescind or just pretending like it never happened? There's a small chance that nothing comes of that. We go on about our way. But as you all know, we have several things going on with buildings, things in town, and we have executive functions that the mayor has to carry out. everything from signing contracts, sometimes contracts for several $1 million for building things. We've got this wastewater project going on, and it is the mayor who carries out the executive function of executing those documents. So, if we have somebody who is arguably not the mayor because they've resigned, and that individual comes back and begins to carry out executive functions, they may be acting without authority. And if they are acting without authority, those actions may be void. And we've seen, I think all of you who've been on this council before have seen a time, or at least heard of a time in recent memory, where we've had something that was done incorrectly, so it was void, and we had to go back and do it again. I think one of the big examples was the publication of the stuff that led to the termination of our finance officer. So that's a real world example that we know when we don't have something done correctly or according to statute, we've had to pay for. So we're faced with, do we let him come back and carry on and say that the rescission's good, or do we reappoint him? And I believe that you are, if I didn't say this out loud yet, I don't know, and I don't think our carrier can know what it does to our insurance coverage specifically, because we don't have a specific thing that he'd be doing. But I do think an insurance carrier would say you are at greater risk if you do not have someone who's duly appointed or who has arguably resigned the office of mayor carrying out the functions of mayor. So then the question for me, as I advise the city, is what is the safest, best course of action to ensure that the city has a duly authorized mayor and is limiting itself from any liabilities or problems? And that is to reappoint Mr. Dreesen if he's willing to come back, or appoint someone else if they want to be mayor. I'm impartial here, but I will tell you from personal opinion, Mr. Dreesen has done a fine job as mayor. I would personally welcome him back. He was good to work with. He did a great job. But if we reappoint Mr. Dreesen, he would serve until the next municipal election under statute under 9-8-2, at which time we would have an election to fill out the remainder of his term. So I don't know if this is accurate, but for example, if he had a 5-year term as mayor and he had 1 year done and then he resigned, we would reappoint him to serve until the next municipal election, at which time he would rerun for the remainder of his 4 years. I do understand that getting petitions and signatures and having to go through the work of asking to stand for election is an extra step of work that admittedly anyone would rather not go through. I understand that, and I'm not trying to be difficult. But that said, I think it's a rather small price to pay to ensure that we have a duly appointed mayor that no one can argue with is the mayor, because you council folks have voted to put him in. If there is any other authority that shows that I'm wrong, I'm certainly willing to take a look, and I will be the first to tell you that I'm incorrect. It's just based off the looking that I've done. I think this is the best way forward for the city to limit liability. Does any of the council members have any questions about anything that I've talked about? Mayor, if it's okay with you, I'd invite anybody in the public to, if they have any questions about
That's
that.
fine with me.
Anyone at all.
But I do have to say, I met with insurance today, and she can't right out say, I mean, it's a gamble, but it could be a risk. Just like he just said.
Even if we follow all the steps outlined
If
by
we
him?
follow what he's doing, we should be okay.
Okay.
But if we do it, there is a risk.
If I may comment, this is not South Dakota Attorney General opinion, and it deals with a school employee. Do they have the right to rescind their resignation prior to board acceptance? And this one says, yes, you do. It's an argument that could be made. The thing about Attorney General's opinions is from one Attorney General to another, it can come back up, and there could be a new set of circumstances that would alter that opinion or strengthen it. This particular one sits on the part of if there was coercion, threats, or whatever, and this person resigned, And when that threat was taken away, they rescinded their resignation. And I do have a copy of the thing. I've given Darla one and stuff. But it is where it was put before, I'm not sure it was an attorney general, but it's a stat, or it's a thing that you can go back and argue, this happened here at this time, this is what the finding was. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in South Dakota, but it's an argument that can be made in front of a South Dakota entity, and one way or the other. And if the Attorney General would agree with that or whatever, then your liability insurance would have to accept, or would be, how do I want to put it, more likely to accept that, because there was a letter of rescission. And it was within 7 days, if I remember accurately. And it's part of the thing was the council departed from past practices. And that doesn't make it right or wrong. It just, it's a departure. If you continue to follow past practices, then you should be safe. And again, liability, that can change with the weather. So that's one of the things, and like I said, this, Darla has a copy, and I've got a couple copies here, that it outlines what went down, and it has a lot of similarities and similar movements that what we saw going on in this situation.
If I may, Mayor, very fair points and very good points, and something the council should definitely consider. I do want to note that I believe there's a strong difference, though, and that is that you are talking about a school employee in the instance, and I believe I've reviewed the one that you're talking about. I can't think of the number, but I think it's a school district employee. And the opinion that I referenced deals specifically with vacancies in elective office. And so, fair point, and there's some employment law that controls and that influences, I believe, that decision with respect to whether you can rescind a resignation in an employment setting. But I do think it's distinct and noteworthy that here we're talking about a resignation of an elected office. We're talking about resignation, and then we've got a statute that tells us exactly what we're supposed to do when we have a vacancy. And then, kind of like I drew you the roadmap already, we know that the resignation, or that it's likely the resignation, triggered a vacancy, so what do we do if there's a vacancy? And so, very fair points by Ms. Larson. Again, I think if we're going to try to make sure that we are making the city as bulletproof as possible, the simple choice is to reappoint her.
I looked in all of our ordinances, and there is nothing that says anything like this. I mean, and I even said to Sam, after this is all said and done, I think we need to put something in writing, because it's a rare thing. But can you explain to them why they don't have to do the resignation, that the past?
Yes, so I think what you're talking about is the practice where if you, for example, as an older person had just resigned, we've come in, we've looked at the resignation, we vote to accept the resignation. The council can set its own procedures. You would typically set something like that by resolution or ordinance. This is how we do a thing. So we've been doing it by practice, which is something. I mean, if we've been doing it forever, it's customary, and so it's not totally baseless or unfounded. But we haven't, as long as to the extent that Darla or I or Austin can find, we haven't passed a resolution or ordinance that sort of codifies what we've been doing. We just start, it's like a lot of things here in other cities at this time, we just started doing it one day, right? So then you look at, okay, well, this is what we've done versus this resignation that says effective date. And then you look to the Attorney General's opinion that says the resignation is effective on the effective date, which would have been July 19th of 2023. So as I read it, it's effective, as in he's resigned, 5 PM, July 19th of 2023. Doesn't really matter how the council feels about it. He said that's when it's effective. There's an Attorney General's opinion that supports that's when he's resigned. And at that same moment that his resignation is effective, that's where that vacancy is created under 3-4, 1 or 2, that, you know, how's the vacancy created? Resignation. When's the resignation occur? Effective date. So either way, we've got the vacancy that the statute says you shall fill, effective July 19th of 2023. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Does that help you guys?
I would point out one thing, that it's correct, it's a school thing, but that school situation is a public entity as opposed to a private. So it's more similar to a municipality than it is to a private entity. So you're aware of
And that
that.
would make us also, Brian, we accepted Brian on, and we never accepted Kyle's resignation either.
That's true, that's true. So you're on the hook for that one.
Yeah.
Could I, as the public, ask a question for point
Sure.
of clarification?
Sure. Mayor, I think if it's okay with you, we just say we're
In
kind
public input.
of mixing 4 and 5 together.
Yeah,
That work?
that's fine.
As a member of the public, I don't know the details of the situation. I understand that a resignation letter was sent in or received, and that was, and not voted on by the board, but just accepted that way, which you have explained that that's a valid resignation. Was there another attempt by the mayor to rescind the resignation, or is the discussion whether the resignation was legal?
Good question, and I think if I understood it correctly, yes to both. So, as I look at it, we never get to the rescinding,
Good.
because once the resignation is effective, we've got a legally valid vacancy.
Okay.
There's a vacancy.
Yep.
And so, let's say at 4:50 PM, he had, for the sake of argument, and this is getting a little theoretical here, but if at 4:50 PM he comes in with a letter rescinding, he says, you know, I don't want to resign. He's arguably rescinded that letter before it became effective, and then the question may very well be different. But the letter rescinding came, I think, 7 days later. It was the 26th.
26th of July.
And in that time, the council already made a motion to make current alderperson Darla Reppy the acting, whatever title you want to call it.
Good question.
And that was done before the rescission?
No, they did not need to.
Okay.
And so let me, just give me a minute and I'll.
Sorry for all my.
No, these are,
No,
this
great
is,
question.
this is why I wanted to talk about it so that the public could understand. Under 9-8-2, that's what talks about when there's a resignation, right? So, it says, if there is a vacancy for any cause in the office of a mayor. So again, 5:01 PM, July 19th, 2023, we got a vacancy. That law 982 says, until the vacancy is filled or during the time of temporary absence or disability of the mayor, the powers and duties of the mayor are executed by the president or vice president of the council. So Darla had been the president of the council and she still
I
is.
understand, yep.
So that's why she acts.
Okay, yep, okay. So then if the individual who rescinded his resignation wanted to be back in as mayor, he would just need to go through the mayoral interview process. Okay, we thank you for your, I thank you for your research on that issue, and so that clears up a lot of things.
Yeah, and I'm sorry it's so difficult, but it's, again.
No, I
it's-
understand it, it's all good, I just
Okay.
was, just making sure I understood it right. Thank you.
I would add one thing. There is such a thing in South Dakota as a temporary resignation, just so you're aware. And that deals, this, I don't think the definition covers this, but there is a temporary resignation that's aligned with that. I'm
There
going
is.
for my law degree.
Let me know if you need a letter of recommendation, Vicki. I'm here to help you.
I don't know if that would be a good or thing or not.
Oh, did you want me to explain any of that stuff, or temporary resignation?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Vicki's correct, there is temporary resignation. as I read the statutes, that deals primarily, a good example of it would be is if Brian is a, you know, a sergeant first class in the Army Guard and he's going to Iraq or Afghanistan for a while, he can temporarily resign the position while he goes on active duty, and then he can come back. The issue with that here, I don't believe there's anything under those statutes that qualify for this here, number one, and number two, again, we don't have anything in the resignation that we could hang our hat on that says it's temporary. It's just, I'm resigning effective time and date. Done.
I found that too, but it didn't fit. I appreciate everybody's input. It has not been easy for any of us because it's been a really hard decision. It's not a good thing either way, but I hope you council kind of feel like I do, like you don't need to make a motion today. Nope. So if you have questions, bring them to Sam. Don't bring them to me because I don't know.
I would urge the council that it says as soon as practicable after the vacancy occurs, so I believe the city is at a point where they've gotten the legal opinion of their attorney, which is it's my job to give you. Your two steps are, am I right? If you disagree with me, which you're free to do, you direct that Lucas come back and we see what happens. If you agree with me, as soon as practical after the vacancy occurs, you should appoint somebody sooner rather than later. I think we've got a legitimate reason for why we didn't do it yet. That's because we want to do our homework and make sure. But I would say by September, you know, we should be looking to appoint someone as mayor because the statute says shall be filled by appointment. So we are bound to do it.
Well, then what if nobody wants it?
Right.
I can't appoint somebody.
Carrie,
I can't make them.
I'll do the homework to get you a for sure answer, but just hypothetically, if you were all to kind of say, Darla, you're going to be the mayor, then you know.
We don't want another resignation.
Right, yeah.
I have to talk to my husband about that.
Does Doug want it?
No.
You can come here.
Yeah. Okay, is there any other public input at this time? Okay, Trudy?
So you're not gonna reinstate him, or can ya?
Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Lucas.
Yes, ma'am, they could appoint him back to being mayor.
Yeah.
And I do not know if Mr. Dreesen is willing to be reappointed. My understanding he's willing to come back, but I don't know if he's willing to go through the appointment process, but that would be what we would need to do to get him back in.
Oh, okay.
And I can't speak for the council, but I would imagine they would, you know, strongly consider him, since nobody wanted to get rid of him before.
Well, I know I've talked to him and he would like to be mayor again, but he doesn't want to go through the process, so that kind of.
But all he would have to do is interview, correct? He wouldn't have to do the whole petition and everything
No.
until the next election.
Not until like March or April, whenever.
Yeah, or February they start, yeah.
And the second thing was he wants to be reinstated for his full term.
And we did check in that. I
Yes,
talked to Sam about it yesterday.
Austin and I engaged in some pretty thorough looking as to whether there was any way we could do that without risk to the city, because that would have been the preferred course of action, but on balance.
But if we do want to take that risk, then we just reappoint him? Or just say, you're mayor?
I mean, yeah, if you want to take that risk, you can go ahead and just determine that his resignation was never legitimate or valid. I'd love to have him back, but for the reasons I stated previously, I think it's too big a risk for you to take.
Well, I'm just saying that I just want them to all understand what options there are, and make it clear.
Yep.
I think they know, but
Yep.
Sam, I
Kendra?
have a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way or anything that you read about that saying that if we made the decision to void his resignation or accept the rescinding letter, whatever we want to put it, that we could, if something were to happen in the future, say because of the circumstances that were happening at the time, that the stress due to, everything that was going on, that we feel he rescinded the letter because, like, on mental health status, because of what was going on and the threats against him, that he made that decision rashly because of, how stressed he was.
I certainly think those are facts that could come out, but from a legal standpoint, does it, it would need a lot of information to rise to the level where he was coerced or resigned under duress that would make the resignation legally invalid. I'm sure there's information like that out there. It's going to be even more difficult to find that. I know you probably won't find it in South Dakota. I could be wrong, but it was hard to find scenarios that fit this exact one, and so it could be out there, but I think that the level of duress would have to be pretty high to make the resignation invalid.
Okay, thank you.
This was West Virginia Supreme Court that handled Dinsmore. That's the school board one. So I'd have to go out and read the opinion, the full opinion of the West Virginia.
Okay, so at this time, was there any more public input? Okay, we're going to move on to general policy discussion. Vicki?
Okay. Given some of the things that have been going on, and I'm in the process of doing something, probably not the smartest thing I've done in my lifetime, but under legal, transparency in fees, charges, and hourly retainer. I'm suggesting that we get a bill, but it's an all-encompassing bill from a legal standpoint. My problem is where we had Sam and Mr. Fillingsness and Pat meeting together and of the same project. Okay, we need to divide that up and, account for where we've got so much of Sam's time, we've got so much of Mr. Fillings's time, and so much of Pat's time. Is messing with this legally worth the effort and worth the money? So it's one of the things that make a decision. I don't think we need Mr. Fillingsness, period, because Sam's already doing the research on it, and why we got this guy other than somebody's can point their finger at him and say that, and that's worthless. And he's getting $25 an hour. I would like to have all opinions that Mr. Nelson makes or Mr. Phelps makes, have those in written form. That way we can go back and read them and understand them, and there's no forgetting, because I have cases in the minutes where something was written and that wasn't a true copy of the minutes. So to have the opinion in a written form. Now I know that sometimes it's given off the cuff, so to speak, or it's over the telephone, but the city needs to have a written, I think they should have a written regurgitation of the opinion. All consultants with advisors, again, with the legal, why do we have, if we're going to have the attorney should speak directly to the mayor, not a translator in the form of a finance officer or a property management guy. We want it straight from the horse's mouth, pardon the pun. oh, that wasn't a pun, euphemism. I think it's important because we're spending a lot of money on legal fees, and I think some of it is redundant. Again, lawsuits, carrying forward on a lawsuit, is it worth the cost it's going to cost us for legal fees, filing fees, and stuff to pursue it? Or is it going to be, go for a settlement? And I realize that settlements can be difficult to arrive at. That was under the legal thing. Art gallery displays for profit, no. That's a private business working on city property. I don't care whether it's an art gallery or what it is. As you can see,
We're very boring now.
the thing, no, we're not boring. The thing is that, but we have had some defacing of public property. And that is a problem. And I think that the person should be billed for that. By her own admission, she was the one that hung it, as I understand it. I've gotten different accountings, whether it be cash, whether it be credit card, or whether it be some other form of payment. The city doesn't, our employees don't need to be doing that. They don't need to be dusting the paintings or whatever. Get them out of here. If the person wants to peddle their paintings, find a different entity. But the city's not in the business. Tax dollars are being expended. City employees are their times are taken out of that, for that. So, like I said, there's too many ways to not be able to track the money. So if you can't track the money, get the thing out of here. Again, no sidewalk sales, hawking stuff either at the community center or whatever. Engineering consult, I see that we're going back with Mr. McGlory, who did a dismal job on the safe routes to school, in the fact that it created a problem which ended up in a lawsuit. And if that man does not know what ADA means, the engineering didn't cover, it wasn't ADA, the slope and having subbed with a person in a wheelchair and stuff. The sidewalks sloped sideways, and if somebody was operating their own wheelchair, that initial slope was dangerous. So then we put an earth dam in, and that created some flooding. Make use of, if we've got something coming up and it's a project, wastewater, whatever, digging or whatever, have the council consult with the people that live in town that do that type of work to give you an opinion and describe to you what it is that's going to be doing, what kind of, like Brian did with the pipe, what kind of things, and do that before we make a decision. Another thing, set up a business office filing system. I had the privilege of that in high school, so that any council member can come in and have a common sense filing system so that they can find anything that they need to look for in the present city filings, warrants, whatever. It needs to be that. It's a safety precaution. The other thing is that the mayor and the city council need to familiarize themselves with the archival system. Melissa Kai brought that up one time a long time ago, because things were being trashed, gotten rid of, and some of that stuff was at that particular time questionable whether it was archival. There's things that the state and the Fed demand that the city archives it for a longer period of time than just the getting rid of refuse. Department committees. This has been made far more difficult than what it is. We have a committee of 3, or had been, with a chairperson. The mayor sits in on all committee meetings. You shouldn't have to have more than one committee meeting a month or every 2 months. And that's been, the past practice was 3. We divide them up, and we try to put, or should try to put the committee, the council members who have an expertise in that particular department, so that they're in there, so that they're cognizant of what's going on. They meet to discuss the operational needs, overall performance of the department. They should receive written requests from the department heads of what they need. And then they can discuss it and then make a recommendation to the entire council. That's what the committee would do. They wouldn't go through supervising and that. That's the mayor. The mayor would be supervisory of all city employees. The department heads, or I'm sorry, not the department heads, but the committees could make recommendations or bring up any issues, and it would be handled from there. They will, the chair signs off on the warrants, and the mayor signs the checks. So it takes a lot of time back off the table for the city councils. Posting all documents to be discussed in the meeting on the website. That has not been followed in the past. That means that those documents back there should be posted on the website so that anybody out there can look at the agenda and look at what's being posted, what's coming up, so they can do the research. The council should have those documents well in advance so they can do their own research and not be bombarded with it the night of the meeting, because it's really tough to get that. And I guess that's essentially everything, other than, and I know this is not going to be popular, I saw in the agenda as far as hiring a council member in the finance officer. I don't think that's a good idea. There is a possibility of I can't think of the term, acknowledgement there's a bias. And I would be very concerned because of what I'm working on, that things could disappear if the former finance officer is allowed in as an advisor to this particular council member. And I apologize if that hurts somebody's feelings, but that's the way I feel. I don't want to see anything disappear, would disappear on that part of it. And I already think that there's enough out there that would deal with that. So, with that said, like I said, having a council member paid in a department, no. I don't think that should happen. That's not a best practices, in my opinion. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
I understand exactly what I think I understand what you're getting at when you ask about all opinions being in written form. I just want to clarify, are you asking for everything that I advise the city being in writing and available to the public?
In a practical sense, yes. So that we can go back and reference it to, the council needs to know exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
And reading it, sometimes it's said and it can be misunderstood or misconstrued. If it's in writing, it's laid out. And I know that is going to cost more, but I think that if you're going to give opinion, that it be in written form so that everybody is on the same page.
Yeah, I understand that. I think there may be a way to do at least some of that. Try to provide you with an example. But there may be times that you absolutely cannot, the public cannot and should not get anything from the city attorney if the city as an entity is engaged in certain, certain litigation or potential litigation, etc. One of our officers is cruising down Main Street, and his car goes into a giant pothole and the guy gets paralyzed from the waist down, I'm not going to share with the citizens of the community through memorandum or any other thing, my legal opinion that, my goodness, call your insurance company and pay the chief $1 million because our road was in such a poor state of repair that we're liable to that guy, and settle yesterday. You know, those types of things would not, should not be made public until an appropriate time.
And I understand that, and I probably should, until it's a done deal. In other words, if there's a potential for a lawsuit or ongoing litigation, that it be there, and I realize it could be subpoenaed. I don't think so because it's a product, it's confidentiality during that.
You hit the nail on the head. There may be things that are work product that the city's making decisions based on confidential information as stewards of public money and discharging their offices. So
But when that's settled,
Yeah.
when that
Sure,
issue
sure.
is settled, then I do believe that it becomes public.
And I know there have been times in the past where you've asked me for clarification about what was said or what was advised, and to the extent I could share that with you, I would. So I get what you're getting at. I just wanted to better understand. I wanted to better understand what specifically you were asking. Thank you.
Because a lot of the members of the council don't always
Sure.
know.
Sure. The other thing I wanted to just comment on briefly that I think you are right, and I did not see this on the agenda, or I would have brought it up beforehand, is we previously had some folks that were employed by the city look to get on the council, and we didn't allow that. And that's a two-way street. What I mean by that is I think we probably run into issues if Cindy is an employee, and at the end of the day, the boss that she answers to is the council, because she's her own master in a certain sense, and so that is.
Let me clarify that a little
Okay.
bit. The only thing that she would be doing is on a day that, like, pick a day of the week. That's the day that I'm going to be over there working on paying bills or something like
Okay.
that. The only thing she would be doing is answering the phone.
Okay.
And helping the people who come in so that I don't get
Right,
distracted from
right.
what I'm doing and I can sit down and do it.
And it is.
That would be the only thing that she's,
It is just a necessary evil of local government. It's not necessarily what she's doing, like the specific roles, it's that she is employed to do something and she answers to herself because she's on the council. And so I don't believe we can do it. I can try to find a workaround, but we run into the issue before, and if you're coming in volunteering right now,
So, like, I worked
uh-huh,
for a week and 2 days.
okay.
So I should have just come in for 8 hours and done all the work I did for free.
Or not at all. Or not at all.
And then she couldn't have gone on her vacation.
Exactly. No, and Cindy, I understand you're upset, but I gotta try to figure it out. Okay?
No, I'm only doing it for her.
I understand.
Because we decided to let go of the finance officer.
I understand. And I'm not saying you're not gonna get paid. I'm just saying, going forward, we ought to think
No,
about
that's
what we
fine.
want.
I'm only was doing it for her. And I will come in and volunteer for half a day for you. Even though I need money too.
But if we're considering, I think further in the agenda, that considering bringing another finance officer in as a part-time, that wouldn't cover emergency situations, but it would cover vacation situations.
Well, we can get to that at the appropriate
I realize
time.
that, but I did see that, so
No, but
that
just
is,
so you know, that is, Centerville is a similar sized town. I think they're all Manic form of government, aren't they?
Yep.
They're about as close to looking like us as we can find. They're real good at what they do, and they've helped cities that are in the bind that we are in right now. So what is proposed is that to the extent they're willing and able to come in and, know, they know September, these things need to be done, December, these things need to be done. They're willing to come help do that. I think they're there when we can get them, and we can get them when we really need them type deal.
Yeah.
So apples and oranges to what I think we're.
My
planning
whole
to
purpose in
send you
this was to trim down some of the expenses and some of the overspending that I was noticing. And it's like the difference between typing paper and heavy-duty copy paper. And that heavy-duty copy paper is expensive. And, you know, why are we using it? You know, like I said, it's little things like that that mount up. And we're not so flush with money that we can afford to be doing that, so. But that's everything I have at this point, so. Is there any other questions?
Discussion from anybody? Okay, thank you. If not, we're going to move on to the community center golf course updates. Landon, do you want to talk about Mondays and the cart, and the part-time service?
So I made a spreadsheet today on all the Mondays we've been open. I think it was beginning of July until last Monday. We've been losing a lot of money on Mondays. If I did my math correctly, those whole Mondays we lost $1,090. That's paying electricity, an employee, and our kitchen equipment fryer on. And we're gonna lose Rhonda. She usually does Mondays as clubhouse attendant. Now she goes to Kansas every weekend for some festival she does. And I got my kids every Monday now since school starts. And I don't know what you guys just want to decide to do on Mondays, but Kelsey and I decide we think we should be closed on Mondays, Kelsey and I. But I don't know how the council feels about that. I know we talked about her, I think, June before on Mondays, but.
What are you guys' thoughts? My only thought is somebody did come to me yesterday, and they were even upset on Sunday because they weren't open right away. If golfers come to golf, they can't even go to the bathroom then if it's closed. We could pay at a box, correct?
Yeah, but they would have to walk.
And they could not get
They would have no
cars.
cart rentals.
Now, I don't know if there's a lot of golfers on Monday.
According to the sheet, no.
Yeah.
You can see our green fees sales. July 10th was $88, 17th was $56, July 31st was $16. I mean, it's getting less and less.
When school starts.
Yeah.
Less. So what are you guys' thoughts?
Maybe we can go now and then decide on a particular day that this could be closed on Mondays. Like beginning of September, not open Mondays anymore.
Could we do it till September 1st? Would that work? That
You might
could
get
do,
someone half day, it wouldn't be all day,
you know, maybe even opening at, what do we talk?
3.
3 o'clock, 3 to 8 or something. So it's open in the evening and people get out and work at golf. Lonnie, what's your thoughts? You're at the golf.
Or does the ground crew get out golf carts, a couple of them, and then they pay at the box?
That'd be my only thing. You hate
I don't
to-
know.
You hate to have somebody come here from Sioux Falls or
Yeah,
something
that's
like
what
we've
I'm
been
worried
getting.
about. And we've been getting golfers.
We're not open. But I don't know if we can figure out a way to help them out so that they don't really have to open the building, or I'm not sure what the best route is, or, yeah. But like Landon knows too, after Labor Day, that place just goes.
Yeah,
Downhill.
it will. Once
So-
Labor Day, I'm sure it will.
With sporting events going on too.
Yeah. So what is there in August left? 2 weeks? 2 more
Mhm.
Mondays? Would it just be 2 Mondays?
I think so.
Of course,
I don't
it
know.
probably should be open Labor Day.
Of course, Dave's gonna be gone, but Dave would be an option for one of those maybe.
2 more Mondays than Monday.
So really it'd be 3 Mondays.
But who was gonna do it is our thing. Wanda did volunteer, but she doesn't wanna close. she would rather do a morning shift.
Couldn't we just close down everything but like the rentals and the restrooms and just have someone basically just sitting there in case someone wants to come rent a cart? But not have anything
The problem
else
is we don't
open?
have anybody.
Yeah.
That's the issue. They're losing all their help to school.
And all these
activities.
servers now are in volleyball, football
Yeah.
cheer, football stats. Rhonda leaves every weekend now till October. We're gonna be short-staffed for a while until we get some help wanted signs out.
I don't know what to tell
Does the
them.
council wanna volunteer their time on Mondays from 3 to 8, or,
I mean, how late is Wanda willing to work? 5?
no, she wants to do like a 9 to 2, 9 to 3,
If that's what she wants, how late is she willing to work?
that's all, she doesn't want. I mean, we're losing a lot of money on Mondays. July 31st, we lost $415. We didn't even cover the labor.
Well, is there a way we could lock off? I mean, we got doors in there, so we can keep the bathroom open, correct? And move the stand where they pay for their golf out in that hallway. And then. if
Well, they
we're
have the pump house bathrooms.
Yeah, the water doesn't work if the pond's filling, it doesn't work.
Because I mean, you can lock all those other entities, right? You can lock the dining room, you can lock the community
I don't know where the
center,
keys are.
but you could probably just shut the doors, don't you think? The keys are already lost to them.
I don't know. I've never seen them. But we have to keep the dining room open for the bathrooms.
No, we won't, would we?
You have
Could
to
they
go
come
through
in
the dining
front
room.
door?
Well, you're gonna go through the front?
Just come through the front door?
We
And then
trust
have
that?
There's cameras in there, right?
Yeah.
Porta potties.
Input, guys.
I think that, I'm kind of with you, I mean, find a way just to like keep the bare minimum open, but I don't see why we need to have, if you're losing that much money, it doesn't make sense to have the kitchen open and everything.
No.
No.
And how much, even if we keep that open, we're still not gonna recoup.
No.
We're still not gonna make money,
No.
so. I
My
guess,
biggest concern is I don't want to lose golfers. I don't want golfers to come down and get really ticked off.
is
Drive
there-
all the way down. How are we gonna get it out there that we're closed on Mondays to Sioux Falls? You know what I mean? Sometimes some older gentlemen come down on Mondays to golf.
Well, okay. I think, like, leave the doors open where the bathrooms, because that's right where the bathrooms are. And I thought we had a folding thing across the dining room. And we have cameras for the other parts, right? So,
What hours do you think would be the best, Lonnie?
Well, with these temperatures, it seems like morning is when we do get them.
Morning is
isn't
when
it?
people are there.
Landon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we get a lot of
It's
members
pretty
at
hot.
night.
Yeah, so there's like kind of that low in the middle of the day right now, so
Morning and then,
probably like 8 to noon. I think at about noon, everybody was gone except for members.
so if,
Would Rhonda be willing to work like that morning until?
Rhonda's gone.
On Monday?
She leaves Friday through Monday, and then she comes to work Tuesday, lunch shift.
well, would Wanda be
But
willing?
Wanda could, she said she could do a 9 to 3.
And then if somebody else, we could do
Sorry,
something.
Wanda, would she be willing to work 9 to noon and then leave and come back 3 to 5? And then do
I doubt it, because she's got
Yeah.
grandkids that play sports. And I bet that's why.
I mean, but would we have to have someone there then after she leaves, if we were talking about just leaving the doors open and having them pay the box for the golf carts, she could just be there for the morning and the early afternoon, and then after that, it's just kind of a self-serve thing.
Is there a way we could, if they wanted a cart, they could call somebody? Could we put a phone number there? They-
Aren't you there?
Not on
No,
Mondays.
not on Monday.
One of,
My phone number's all over this town. So if I'm available, I'll go to
You just need one more job.
it. Last year to a gate.
just put
Right.
Dale's, Dale's number, he's out there every day.
Yeah, he's gone, but if you're gonna do 1 to 9 to 3, Dale's gone by 3 anyways, so it's kind of that 3 and after, really. And we're only talking a couple weeks here, so.
Right, we're only copying.
I'm typically, oh wait, well, we got flag football starting, so I don't know what that schedule will bring, but. I don't think we're gonna get Sioux Falls golfers after 3. or
Right, so
after-
if somebody's there in the mornings.
Yeah,
Well, should we put it out that, or start it right away on the webpage, that if Wanda could do 9 to 3, just be there. And then, what, at 3 o'clock? Golfers pay at the
probably just do walking only, at least,
walking only on Mondays.
no carts, rentals.
That'd work, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Probably just put no cart rentals, otherwise members are gonna
cart
be like,
rentals.
well, we can't. You know, some people aren't
Right.
that smart.
Well, we've had that anyway, because we ran out of carts a few times.
A lot.
So,
So how's that sound? We'll stay open if Wanda will work it. What about Labor Day though? That's a Monday. You think we could get,
I could probably do that one, because there's probably no school.
right. So if we, Wanda were to do the next 2, and then we'll just put it up, put a note on the door that after 3, no carts,
Walking only.
walking only.
So it will just be 1 to 9 to 3 though, no kitchen or anything,
No.
correct?
No, she doesn't know how
No.
to do
Yeah, I was gonna say, is the kitchen
Can
open
she
right now
get
on Mondays?
Beer and that?
it.
or-
Yeah, and we also have pizzas available too.
Yeah, so she could do that. But does that sound okay?
Oh.
Does that appease everybody?
Yes.
Okay, does that sound okay?
Okay.
Okay,
So that's all just gonna be tentative on what Wanda says, more or less.
right.
Pretty much.
But it's 2 weeks, 2
But
Mondays.
she's already said she's willing.
Yeah, I talked to her yesterday about it, if,
2 Mondays, Kevin. Okay,
And-
Landon had me come up, and I will vouch for him. The community center has now been open roughly a year and a half. The carpet has never been cleaned, and it's got some pretty bad spots
in the high traffic areas.
in the high, in fact,
You can
it
tell.
looks kind of gross. So he got a carpet estimate, and he's wondering if he could go ahead and have the carpet cleaned.
Yes.
Is that the only estimate you got, Landon?
Yeah. I thought it was pretty reasonable.
It's not
Yep.
bad.
Under
This
1,000 for that
guy
big
will,
area.
he'll come back, Landon, tell him about what he said about the bad spots.
Yeah, he's gonna do it once, and then once the carpet dries, he's gonna come back and see if it did come out, but if not, he would come back, do the high traffic areas with no
I'm-
cost.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this guy. He does where I work, so
Okay.
we've dealt with him before.
So
I feel
he'll
like
come
that's who
back
does
with
on
no
Codas,
charge.
too.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think this is who does them on Codas also.
No, the number's good. That's really reasonable for a space that size.
And I
Yeah.
think this would be the time to do it when our income is higher
Exactly.
versus in the
Yep.
middle of winter,
Mm-hmm.
when our income isn't as high. So would there be a motion to have legacy carpet, clean carpets?
I'll make a motion to have Legacy Carpet Service do the carpets in the community center.
I'll second.
You want to add the price at 9? Oh,
At $9.25.
I'll second that.
Julia, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Yep. And I don't know if we need a motion for the next one or not, but he does need to advertise for part-time servers and bartenders, particularly adults.
Yes.
You know, anybody that would be willing to help, send him Landon's way. You need
Please.
someone in the adult category for a night or two. Do we need a motion for that?
Probably not, it's not gonna hurt if you do
Okay, so do you want to just make a motion to advertise for part-time servers and bartenders?
I'll make a motion to advertise for part-time servers and bartenders.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Last time we had Minnie Selcher here, and Landon said, he admitted, you know, that he screwed up with talking to Minnie, but she was talking to Landon when he was also preparing her wedding. So
Yes.
that's part of the reason it didn't get written down. But in the meantime, for graduation in 2024, it is already rented to two parties that are splitting it. So we really can't take it away from them. So I discussed it with Mindy, and I know we've talked about it before, we don't want to rent out the dining area, because she had the dining area for her last daughter's graduation, and it was from, I believe, 3 to 6. Because then the dining isn't open to the public, they had to use the bar or the patio. But I asked her what we could do for her to make her happy with the situation. And she's asked for the dining room back on graduation, from 3 to 6. I know it will be hard for these guys a little bit, but, and then she wanted to know the cost. Because we had offered that maybe she could have, if she did Friday night for graduation, we'd give it to her at half price. She does not want Friday night because her family does not come in until Saturday with graduation. So, you guys tell me what I tell her.
She had the same thing last year, right? And
Yeah.
what did we charge her?
75.
But also took pop out of her pop machine.
I'm sorry?
Her family took pop out of our pop machine. We sent her a bill for it, never paid it.
They took it out of the coolers?
No, our fountain machine.
Oh.
So, thoughts? Because I do have to call it back.
So she wants it on Saturday night.
Saturday from 3 to 6 again.
That would be
Saturday from 3 to 6, and then she would like to know the cost.
Well, wouldn't it be the same cost?
Well, because we had offered it possibly half price for the other part, for the mistake.
Well,
Could we do it $50 and just give her $50 to rent it, take a little bit off?
I
and
mean,
then-
if she's renting it at the same time, I don't really see why it should be taken off. If she's gonna take Friday, I understand giving it to her, if she has to change her plans. She's not changing any plans right now.
So should we say
She's in
75?
that room.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up a little bit. Didn't you say that you sent a bill for a pop and she didn't pay it?
Correct.
Maybe she gotta pay that first, or she just doesn't.
Good luck getting that out of her. She refused.
pay it or no deal.
Well, if the pop isn't included, then is there any way we can, if she's not gonna pay, she shouldn't be able to use it?
Nope.
just take the canisters out.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yep.
Most people aren't gonna know how to hook those back up.
Especially if they're not close by.
Well, my biggest thing is I know that after we talked to her at the last meeting, she's had previous issues to this one at this establishment. So obviously, I'm not comfortable with not doing anything for her. But,
I agree. If it was the first time something had happened, then I'd say she shouldn't get a discount, but since it's now the second or third time she's had
and
issues.
it doesn't seem like with that time frame, it doesn't seem like it's gonna interfere that badly with day-to-day operations in there, especially if it's done at 6.
How was it the last time, Landon? What was it?
It wasn't too busy that night.
Yeah, because usually people are gone to graduations.
Yeah, and as long as they're out of there by set time, I don't see.
And she asked for the same thing, the partition to be put up and whatnot, so.
Yeah, no, I think that's
And the
all
bar's
fair.
still open?
What's
She
that?
just gets the dining car.
Yes,
Was the bar still open when she was there last year?
yes.
Then how were the,
And people went in
oh,
there
there's a pop
and ate.
machine in the dining room. Never mind,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was thinking they went
People
behind
went
the bar.
in there
to
and
get
ate, and they can choose a patio. I mean, it's May, so they could. So is it okay? 50. All right. Do we need a motion for that? I just put it down there. No.
Landon, have you created a document yet with the rules for rentals?
We have contracts.
Okay, so then she violated that contract, or did she not sign it last time?
So her first, we weren't even fully opened when we had the contracts done. We was still in the process, the whole thing,
Of that graduation?
yeah. Because Pat and Wanda booked Amanda Beeler's before we even opened the doors. And I didn't know that until Mindy contacted me if she could book it. Well, I said she could,
Okay.
but then Pat's like, well, it's already taken for Amanda Beeler's family party. So that's why we had to push Mindy to the dining room.
But now they are created and the rules are clear.
Do they get an itemized invoice for everything?
Pat and Wanda sent one, yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. And this one is, are you okay now?
Yep.
Okay. We'll move on to we did have a community center walkthrough. Landon, I, and Tom Walsh, and Gary McKellips, because we have not yet had our final walkthrough of the community center. So we've made a list again, and Gary is going to contact the architect, and if we don't hear anything, we will be seeking legal counsel on this.
He's contacting the architect. When
The
this
stuff is not done yet,
Well,
so.
I mean,
And
that and
in the
he
past,
has to-
supposedly Pat had tried, but they never got back to her. So it's time, because there's things wrong. We had 30 items on our list at least. And some of them are kind of critical. So we either gotta get them fixed now, or we're gonna be burned. So that's just an update so you as a council know that. Okay, Lonnie, talk about the trees.
We had a fairly large branch come down here a couple of weeks back. You guys have probably all seen it sitting up by the maintenance shed. It came down at from what I understand, about 9:30 in the morning. There's no wind, and there's people on the tree box. And this tree's kind of a safety hazard, I would say. Landon
was a big
knows
branch.
that, like, the whole north half of it is just broke, falling off, and the south half, it has to go. So I got a couple quotes, one from Scott Persing with, he'd take it down with a track hoe, and that was $2,000, and that would be hauled away too. Lucas gave me a quote this morning. Both of these are both verbal quotes too, so you're aware. Lucas said $1,000, and then we will haul it away, which will take us some time, but it's a fairly large maple.
Is it rotted line?
There are parts that look rotten on it, but a lot of it was just, it was never maintained properly, so it's just waiting out
All the weight's on
too
this.
much. So this last one that fell, I mean, it split 6 feet off the trunk and just dropped straight, so. we have multiple trees out there like that, and we will probably have to get Lucas or whoever we decide to hire to come in and address those other ones yet this winter too, so.
Is this like right off the fairway, or is it?
This is right next to number 3's tee box, which used to be old number 8's tee box.
So the track hoe is gonna tear up some.
The
real
track
estate.
hoe won't happen until this winter.
Okay.
So if we feel like we should act now, because it is a little scary, Dale says, Dale Jorgensen, mowing under this thing, knowing
Yeah.
that it just breaks out of nowhere, so.
It's a safety hazard, we should do it as quick
Yeah,
as
Phil,
possible.
right, there's people there.
Yeah.
There was people golfing right there.
Yeah,
You guys talked to Frank?
no,
I just had to do one great big pine tree in my front yard, and it was
yeah,
significantly less than both of those.
okay.
Could check with Don Christensen too. I don't know if he does it anymore. He
See,
might
I
have
think he
retired.
retired.
Did he retire?
So you also wanted something with the bridge?
I will try Frank, but last time I called him, I never got a response back, so.
I could probably text him right now, let's see what happens.
I mean, I'm willing to take them, but if, this already happened, like I said, 2-3 weeks ago, so.
Yeah.
We need to decide if, do we think it's gonna be safe and leave it for now, or act on it, so.
Could we just make a motion to approve spending up to a certain amount and then he can continue grabbing quotes over the next week or so and then just go with whatever
Okay.
is the best option?
Yep, sounds good with me.
Out of those two, are they using the same equipment, like what?
No,
the grass
Luke-
mow?
Luke, oh, you mean, Lucas and Frank?
No, sorry, Scott and Lucas.
Scott will be using an excavator, which we've talked about getting rid of the wood bridge on the north end too. Just it's a lot of maintenance to keep it up and replacing that with culverts. Well, we would have to have Scott do that because they're concrete and they're too heavy for us to set and move with our loader. So he had given me a verbal quote of $1,500 to remove the bridge and take that away too, and then haul dirt, put the culverts in, bearing that we brought the culverts, or got the culverts. Which last time I got from Lincoln County for free, so. So yeah, back to that, yes. Scott's excavator, Lucas would be working on the bucket truck. And same with Frank, bucket truck. So Scott would be quick, I mean, but we'd have to make that decision if we want it done now. Do we let him track in on the course right now?
And we are getting towards the end of the season,
Yeah, so we would just have to shut water off behind a green, or on that green next to it, just so he can track back there, but. Guess you guys tell me what you think.
Lucas did it now, just for that one tree. Do you have the time to haul it away?
Yeah. Just quick, I'm done with street repairs. We have expanded our budget's been maxed, so we came in under according to my tabulations, but only by like $130, so. So I have some free time and I've been spending it working on the golf course on irrigation right now, so.
So the whole bridge, we could wait until golfing's basically done, right?
We could, yeah, that doesn't need to come out right now.
All right.
So,
It's not posing a safety hazard or anything.
no,
the bridge.
it's holding up. Dave has worked on it quite a bit, keeping it, but it is a lot of work to do that, so. Been there a long time.
What did you think budget-wise? If we waited on the bridge till next year?
I would prefer to wait till everything for next year. I feel like, for my opinion, I would prefer if Lucas could just do it and get it down and you can haul it away without the time.
And the bridge, wait.
Yeah, we can wait on the
If it's stable, I
bridge.
mean, we're golfing in.
The bridge, that can be after the first of the year, so.
But don't let us forget, just keep them.
Yeah, Scott would actually prefer that bridge, we had like 6 inches of frost, so we can bust the pilings off a little easier. So.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you have the time to do it, we might as well just, and then we don't have to worry about the excavator coming on the grass either. So,
We're hearing very, very positive, and I told Lonnie today about how the golf course looks this year. So we don't want to wreck it.
no.
No, you've done a great job.
So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to spend $1,000 for tree removal on the golf course done by Lucas and the removal done by street department.
I'll second that.
Department.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Did you need me, did you say you needed me for that?
I don't know if you need to stay for that.
That'd be good. I gotta get the kids
No.
to bed early tonight.
Yeah, no, I think you're fine.
School starts.
Thank you.
tomorrow. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, police department, number A, we don't need to worry about it, that is taken care of. So you can cross that one off. Anything else from you guys?
Just Kyle, talk about National Night Out.
Oh, yeah, that was a success, I feel.
It was. I just wanted to thank everyone that was able to volunteer. I understand everyone was really busy. It was a very busy and long day. From calculations, we had about 150 people. That's going off of the food that was eaten and that we had left. But other than that, cotton candy and snow cones were a really big hit. And so looking forward to hopefully do it next year too. Maybe get some more bigger bouncy houses instead of the little kid ones.
Yeah, the big ones or the hot ones?
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure that the kids use the bathroom before they get
There was 2 poop incidences in the bouncy houses, so.
One was mud though, right?
I never got a for sure answer if it was mud or.
gosh.
Yes.
You didn't check?
I did not check. I let the fire department clean that up. So, no, and I'm hoping just next year that we can get a lot more bouncy houses and stuff for the kids to do, so.
Oh, it was very nice. So thank you guys.
Thank
for your work.
You bet.
Anything else, Jared?
Nope, I just have stuff under the camera section.
Okay, legal updates.
Austin had let me know, I apologize if I'm not as up to speed on this as some of you might be. We've got an individual in town who's looking to put a fence up in their front yard, and they wanted to know about the setbacks. And as I understand it, there are side and rear yard setbacks for fences, but we don't actually have anything that talks about front yard fences. When you have a setback from I think it's 10.03I, fences that are adjacent to alleys shall be set back 5 feet from the street or boulevard right of way. The scenario we were kind of wondering about is your classic house that has a waist-high white picket fence that's right up next to the sidewalk. Is that okay? Should it be okay? I think it probably should be okay, or do you want a 5-foot setback? So, as I understand it, Austin, kind of essentially going forward, if this problem comes up, I wanted to see if you folks were interested in amending your zoning ordinance to allow for certain heights of fence to be right up next to the sidewalk or set back 5 feet. Canton and a couple other municipalities do some of their setbacks by height. There's, a difference in a 4-foot or 3-foot fence versus a 6-foot where you can have it. And so that was one thing he wanted to mention. I had a similar issue that was brought up by an individual in town who wanted to put a shed in the back of his yard, and his yard is actually, his property line abuts a fence to a pasture which is not in city limits. And as I read the ordinance, he's got to have a rear yard setback of 25 feet to put a garden shed, which I think is odd. I looked at Canton's, and if I wanted to put a similar shed in, I'd have to set mine back 7 feet from the property line. And so he inquired about that pursuant to a building permit. And I'd welcome anybody that wants to read the ordinances and tell me if I'm missing something, because I do miss things, but
The Centerville girl, lady yesterday when you brought that, said that, she said Centerville's is 8 feet.
yeah.
She couldn't believe it was 25.
Yeah.
That don't make sense.
So does that mean, in theory, if I wanted to build, so like my property butts up to the alley, so if I wanted to build a shed in my backyard, it'd have to be 25 feet away from the alley?
Yeah,
What?
because it's if I remember right, it's an accessory structure, and so it's.
I do live against an alley and my shed's a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my neighbor has a shed all the way.
But, is that, now you mentioned sidewalks, is there a difference if it's, sidewalk's not a roadway? Is there a difference there?
That's a good question. And some folks don't think about this. When you, depending on your municipality, but you will have a standard width of a public right-of-way is 66 feet. I think that's what Canton's are. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what they are. So when you actually measure from the center line of the road on 2nd Street by my house in Canton, and you measure 33 toward my house, in theory, you're supposed to butt up on the inside side of the sidewalk.
Okay.
I don't actually own the boulevard or the sidewalk, I just gotta maintain it. And so, that's why if your 5-foot setback is from the right-of-way, it would be actually 5 feet inside your sidewalk.
Yep.
So for the blocks that don't have sidewalks, would they just measure that out and go where the sidewalk would be?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, it would, your public right-of-way is generally measured on either side from center line of the road, half the total width of the right-of-way.
Oh.
I do, because I am the one that called about the front yard one. My concern with it being up is during snow removal. That's,
Is there a sidewalk on that street?
when I drive, I don't recall it being a sidewalk, because it's on Hayden Drive.
Yeah, there's not sidewalks.
There's no sidewalks on Hayden.
So their fence couldn't butt up to it because the right of way wouldn't be.
And I also, when I was reading the ordinances, it said something about a triangle being because of the blocking of a view.
If it's on a corner
On a-
property.
Yes.
On a corner property, there's a formula that talks about
Right.
measurement, and that gets into height stuff too.
Yes.
You might be okay with a 3-foot tall fence,
Mhm.
but an 8-foot, that solid panel that you can't see the Amazon truck coming.
Yeah, and the way the house is situated, because Hayden Drive comes up and goes like this, and then you come around and loop back. And so where the house is, if they put it right up to the street, it would just be like, whoa.
Well, they can't, they'd have to go back beyond where the sidewalk would be, right? In theory, if there was one, they'd have to measure that 33 feet, correct, from the center to the,
Yeah, so if you're, I guess if you're talking about in a front yard wanting to put a fence up, right on the inside of the sidewalk, like a white picket fence like you see in the movies, I think the point Austin has is there's nothing that specifically governs fences in the front yard. We've got something for fences everywhere else but the front yard. And then the only other ordinance that we have is anything must be set back from the front yard 30 feet or something. So it's kind of a gap that we need to think about there.
I feel like when I was looking for it for my neighbor's fence, it said that it could only be 4 feet in the front and
Yeah.
on a corner property, it has to, for however many feet back, and then it can start to ascend.
You're right, but it talks about height. And so, I might be confusing two things here. It does say 4 feet in height.
Okay.
We're talking about distance from the edge of your property set back from the front yard. And that's, I think, but you're right, it does say in here, that's 10.03D. Fences erected or maintained in the front yard setback may not exceed 4 feet in height. So, something we might want to consider, and then while we're talking about those ordinances too, though, I can't think of a good reason why you'd want to tell people they need to have a shed 25 feet
No.
back. from their
No,
property.
that's gotta change.
That should,
Could you write something up on that?
Sure.
And then we could maybe vote on it the next time.
You could build that close to the lake
Right, yeah,
which is-
exactly.
Yeah, we don't need.
I looked at Google Earth, we got
I don't know
a
why.
lot of
it
folks
says
that haven't followed that one, so maybe it's time to just change it.
I ain't moving my shed.
He hasn't finalized the
I don't even
ordinance
know if
for
my backyard's
fences
25
anyway,
feet.
so he should be able to edit it.
Yep.
Because he hasn't even drafted it, but he should have started it for, the setback from the property line anyway.
So he was working on that.
I would hope so. We did ask him to do that.
And I'm sure he is, I just,
Because in the backyard, we were asking for what the property line, where, how far ahead we set back.
So did we ever help the guy that wanted to put the shed in the back?
No, because we needed to test it.
He's been in there
He
2
would
times.
have needed a variance.
yeah, he
Oh,
would have
shit.
needed a variance and he, essentially, we can't give him a building permit now because the way the ordinance reads, as I read it, if you're gonna go through the trouble of a variance, you might as well fix that so that everyone that wants to put a shed in their backyard can put it 7 feet from the property line or 8 foot or, yeah. And then we get that done and,
Yeah. And his question too was he was gonna put it on cement, correct?
mhm.
So
And
that,
that should be, you know, if you're putting a shed up and you're gonna pour a pad,
yeah, it shouldn't
6
be.
of one, half dozen of the other, that shouldn't be.
Do you need a permit for that?
You
He
need a
came-
building permit
He
for it.
came to get it, and
Yeah,
that's
Okay,
where
well, I
all
wondered,
this kind of
since
stems
it's
from.
not attached to an existing structure, I wasn't sure how that went.
No, I just wanted to put a
If
shed in
you're
the
putting
backyard.
concrete in the ground, it needs a permit.
That's what I thought.
So kind of the odd question to that was, so if I don't put concrete down, do I still need a building?
Yeah, he asked that.
Yeah, if you just plop a shed right on the grass, do you have to then?
That's what my neighbor did.
You might not need the building permit, but you're always required to follow setbacks. But then again,
So strange.
he could set it down on some railroad ties and then once the ordinance changed, you pick it up and move it. But I do think, you know, up to you guys what you want to do, but I do think it's probably a good idea to change that.
Yeah, I-
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you could knock out the fences and that all at one joint
One
zoning.
thing, yeah.
The-
So it's gonna be written as that the front fence will be 4 feet high, and it'll go from the middle of the road, whatever the width is, that's how far back it has to go.
You-
So they'll be adding that.
What we can do is we can prepare a couple different ones. But what I really, I forget that folks don't deal with this the way I do a lot. Just when you're talking about where your actual property line is, that's how you would measure it in the right of way, middle of the right of way, half the width of the right of way. And so typically that lands you on the inside of your side.
But since we don't have sidewalks,
Right, so,
that
yeah.
would be where the fence would go.
Yes, exactly. If you wanted to allow the fence to be on the property line of the front yard, if it was a 4-foot tall fence, bam, that's,
Yeah, I mean, I guess then if that's how we write it, then they also have to be aware that they have to shovel snow, and when they plow snow, and then they have to put it, because there's nowhere else to go except their front yard.
right. Yeah. A lot of folks get very upset that snow's on their boulevard until they learn they don't own the boulevard.
I
One
have
other
a-
thing I
I
wanted
have a
to bring
quick
up.
question.
Yes.
Yep. Generally, the measurement is 33 feet from the center of the street. That's saying that the street's 66 feet
Well,
wide.
yeah, whatever the
Yeah.
half is
Yeah.
of the street.
So
width.
that,
Yeah, the
That can
measurement could
change.
change, whatever
Yeah.
our width of our public right of way is here in town.
yeah.
Yeah, so like on Broad Street, for instance, I live on Broad Street, so mine's probably a little bit different because it's a wider street, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's,
Okay.
I'm the same thing in Canton and Milwaukee, it's like half again is what I remember.
Does that vary now, because I live on the highway? Is it a difference?
You're on the state highway, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so then your state highway, I think might be 66, I'd have to look. But 11 is, I think 11's wider than 66.
Okay.
Typically, they cover the ditches.
Oh, sure, that would
I
make
think-
sense.
I think, don't quote me on that, but I think, we can find, that's publicly available.
Yeah.
Find out. You had a question, Kyle?
No, so my thought was just on Hayden Drive. It's a circle right there, so how would that work then? Since it's a circle turnaround drive, there's not actually, like, the middle of the road would be different there.
This is, man, this is stuff I wish they would have taught in law school, but they didn't. What I think you do
is you go to the center of the circle, you plop a pin in, and then you take a string that's half the width of the right of way, and then you trace a circle, I think is what you do.
That would make sense.
But somebody smarter than me has dealt with this before, and there's an answer out there. But I think that's how it is. Vicki will tell us next week if I'm wrong.
Well, it may be in real estate law too.
Could be. Any other questions on that stuff? Okay, real quick, I know I talked about this before, I just wanted to bring it up again. I don't think the council was interested last time. Legislature this past session passed a law allowing for the election of aldermen at large. If you're having trouble getting people from certain wards. Based off that law, what it tells me is if you can elect an alderman at large, you can appoint an alderman at large. You have to, pursuant to statute, put it on the ballot at an election, and then the townsfolk vote whether or not they want to have aldermen and women at large. Just something to think about as we come up to a municipal election, because it will give you the ability, if we're running short on people, but we've got, a full house in Ward 2, those wards can go away, and you can have 3 people from Ward 2 if you need them. The law also allows you to repeal that if folks in town become unhappy. So something to think about as we work through personnel issues. That's all I had, unless anybody had questions for me. Oh, yes, thank you very much. I did have, I requested the mayor put on the agenda, Golly, where are we? Okay. C, thank you. I did ask for a motion to be put on to allow Abigail Moore and Darla Rep to be authorized officials to act on behalf of the city pursuant to ordinance. We've got several different ordinances, a lot of them that were redone in 14, and our zoning ordinances were redone in 18. Many municipal ordinances reference an authorized official, and it depends on what role you're doing. So what I had asked is that because Darla's in the capacity of mayor and doing a lot of the work, and Abigail's being in the finance office, it makes sense to have them appointed as authorized officials to act pursuant to ordinance. What we're saying by saying that is, anywhere in ordinance it says, see the authorized official for a building permit, see him for a water bill, see him for whatever, these two can handle that. I've talked with them ahead of time. If they're going to be doing something very technical, they can call me, but the main one is building permits and variance applications. We just want them to be able to act in an official capacity, because that's what our ordinances say.
I'll make a motion to appoint Abigail Moore and Darla Ruffey as authorized officials to act on behalf of the city pursuant to ordinance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any more discussion? Motion carried. I think we talked about the fence kind of discussion already. The only other one, and the reason I put this on here is we do have several yards in town that are an absolute mess with grass and weeds. And our ordinances do say that. So how do we pursue that? Do we have to have Fillingsis look at them? Or can we send something and they can get a fine? I mean, what do we do?
You're the authorized official.
Yeah.
No, I'd have to check, but I think that's one thing where we do have an authorized official, and it would be the code enforcement person, but you.
I think we did it this week to someone. He went and looked at someone's yard.
Yeah.
Did he
looked
act,
at two.
did he act on them at all? Do we know?
No, because they had just that day or the evening before.
Winrow did, yeah.
They got rid of all the weeds and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And then the other one was the one where they did the windrow.
I got a question. Now, we have ordinances, for people to take care of their lawns and whatever. So if we were gonna issue tickets, do we have field misses or our policemen sit there and give them a citation, and then do they go to our, to the county and pay their fines, or how do we handle all that?
I'd have to look, but I think we have a general city ordinance violation ticket, I think. I don't want to put work on their plate, but one thing you can have your officers do is cite people for that. They got a lot of other stuff to do, but you can have them do that. I don't think that is a county ticket because it's municipal ordinance. So any fine would go to the municipality.
So they come right here and pay it?
Yeah, they would come here and pay it. Just my way I look at the world, I'm a big believer in saying to somebody, hey, why don't you fix it once, maybe twice before you ticket them. I don't think there's anything that stops anybody from saying, hey, I think your grass, et cetera, is out of, you got elephant grass in your yard, mow it. But Fillingsness, that's one of the things that you have him do as your code enforcement guy. Law enforcement can. City mayor actually has constabulary powers to a certain extent, so I believe Darla could cite somebody. I'd have to look and see if Abigail could do that now that we've authorized her, and
I
see
gotta
if,
start knocking on doors.
see if that's something that our code enforcement person is allowed to do, and is she allowed to carry out those duties. I'd have to double check Carrie, but
But instead, we can just write a letter, or like, because there already is one, like,
Yeah.
when I first moved here, one of our branches hung too low.
Yep.
And so we got something on our mailbox or in our door or something, saying, hey, this is the code that you're breaking. We never got a ticket for it because we took care of it.
yeah, you can absolutely do that.
So instead of like having to call him every single time to
Yes.
come from wherever he is,
Right.
pay him to come look at it,
Correct.
we could just issue them a letter and say, hey, you need to do this, or if it's not done, then
We
you
will
can
call
have
him,
Yeah.
yeah.
come and write the citation.
And I think that's the smarter way to do it, send a letter.
I think it also just makes good camaraderie, so you're not
Right.
just making everybody mad.
Well, and then if you cite somebody, you've got 3 letters saying, Sam Nelson's got 6-foot-tall grass and he never mows, we sent him 3 letters, it's time for him to pay fine.
Yeah, yeah.
There's nothing
So I
saying.
feel like that would be a
I have
more
no problem
appropriate,
with that.
yeah.
I've given the people another opportunity, but they gotta know that it will be enforced if it's not.
There's
my-
already a letter drafted because the city.
That's what's frustrating, they know, but they don't do anything.
That's my biggest thing, so I don't say this in any disrespect towards anybody whatsoever. The people whose yards tend to get that way, stay that way. And you can threaten them all you want with a letter and take it, they're not gonna pay it. They're gonna, you know, so then how do we make them pay it?
I have to look to be certain, but at some point, I believe you could assess the property.
Okay.
So for example, if it's my yard again and it is atrocious and it's, eventually the city can go in because it is a nuisance and the city can abate the nuisance. You could send Lonnie to mow my yard.
That's what I was gonna ask about.
Yeah, and then you send me a bill for it, and then if you do that 10 times and I owe the city $500 or whatever, eventually it goes on the tax bill.
You just tack it onto the water bill, so?
Wish.
There's some tickets, like the animal at large ticket, they don't pay the fine, it doubles.
Okay.
And if they don't pay it again in a certain number of days, they can send it down to the court.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's the other thing you can do. Beersford, we had some folks with a bonfire in the backyard and they melted a municipal power line. And they were prosecuted under a city, and we took them to court like I was Jerry Miller for the city. And we prosecuted them for melting the power line, because those are expensive.
How high was this power?
What happened?
I mean, it went from a pole to the house.
Oh,
You can't touch it when it
they
goes
had a
out.
hell of a fire.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Kind of gives an idea what we should do.
Yeah.
That's kind of the next one is HRC update. Jared contacted me. The 2 lots that they're buying, we just have to have somebody to sign the paperwork, to appoint someone to sign the paperwork, so they can proceed with that.
and I would say that because you are council president acting as mayor, you've got the executive authority
to do that.
to do that with, we don't have to have the motion. You're
Okay, I
able
can
to
just
do
tell him I can,
Yes.
as a position. All right.
that. And I wanna look at those, I've seen them, but I wanna make sure they're in form.
Okay.
They're acceptable.
Oh, they're right here. She's got it right there. All right, we'll move on to the next one. John Way contacted me, and I think I forgot this 2 months ago. Didn't have a sticky note on my window to remember. He has requested 2 handicapped parking spaces in front of the funeral home. Sometimes, and the first one is at the corner of like, right across from the bank, right on the corner, north and south. And then the other one is this, what is that street? Iowa, right on the corner. So right there is ramps, you know, it's ramps up. So I don't know, who puts them up? What do you want?
Put the ramps up
No, who puts the signs up, technically?
for handicap parking.
Would it be Lonnie?
Well, it could be us, or we could talk to him about, you know, we'll designate him, but he might put the signs in at his expense. I'd have
Yeah.
to think on that a minute.
Yeah, see, he asked me that, because I think he's assuming we put them up. Because is there other ones downtown?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a senior
There's-
center.
the senior center, and then right across the street at the bank, there's another one right there.
Yeah. I wonder who put those in.
Figure out how soon he's gonna
Well, he's asked me a while ago, soon, but, I mean, we can maybe just find out who pays for them.
Yeah, plenty of parking in the areas too and up.
2 handicaps.
Yeah.
He just would like, he just requested to,
Okay.
yeah. I think he just wants them there because they can go up that kind of incline there a little bit.
Could always start with that, and if they ever
Yeah.
need to add more on.
So could we have a motion? Well,
Let's
How would
just
we
figure
do it?
out who does it first.
and then we'll make a
and
motion.
then next.
Okay.
Yep.
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, we could, if you're comfortable, once we figure out who pays for it, if you're comfortable footing the bill, which
I can-
I'm sure
we
it's
can
not gonna
talk
be
to him.
outrageous, but I think you could move to designate the 2 parking spaces now,
Okay,
so that way you're deciding that those spaces are there.
that could be in the motion.
Yeah, if it costs something, it costs something.
So we can go ahead and make the motion.
I'll make the motion. Place 2 handicap parking spaces at the corner of Iowa and Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we will look into that part. The next thing, Jared, you wanted to just say something about the cameras?
So I was able to get a hold of Brett with Safety and Security Day. So if you guys have your nice little diagrams to follow
That
along.
was from last time, yeah.
All right, so I talked about the cameras. The one main hallway, it's gonna be camera 1. The one over here is camera 2, and then the one in this corner will be camera 3. So when I talked to them, obviously the one watching our main entrance is critical. Camera 2, the one that's gonna be over the cabinets. When I told him Pat no longer works here, he said that one isn't necessary anymore. So if you want to move it to this corner to cover the rest of the room. 2 cameras, we both recommend main entrance, this corner here, to cover all the interactions at the desk. And then you still get a view of the room. So if you want to go 2, those are the 2 I would recommend. If you want to spend the extra $1,000 to get a third, move that one to the far corner.
Are the cameras that are out in the hallway, they're not being used anymore, I assume? They were the old school ones?
They were,
They're not wired at all. Oh, they're not wired at all anymore.
If we've got the 2, we're gonna have one on that entrance and one out here. I don't see any reason to even have one in this room.
We have to have one in this room.
We do.
Oh, we do?
That's
People
gonna be
have
right
come
there.
in here and been outlandish to the workers.
Oh, okay.
So we need one in here and the one in the hallway, definitely, because people come and go and,
Well, the one in that corner, that would get pretty much everything except for that corner up there, right?
Yeah, it's,
yeah.
There'd be a little
there'd
blind
be a
spot
little,
up there.
little gap in coverage, but most of the interaction in this room happens
Right there.
at this desk, so that's what you're trying to capture.
I'd say 2 is probably sufficient then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about roughly 3,000 for 2 cameras.
Is that including,
It's,
Video
it's
stuff.
about 1,000 per camera.
Yeah.
is that not
2 would
including?
be 2,000.
Yeah, it's 2,000, it was 3,000.
Oh, that's for 3 cameras.
What's that?
No, as far as equipment for storing the video and all that.
There's
From
a,
last time.
there's a network room right around the corner.
And we could run them straight
The
over.
camera system was 2,047. Oh,
I guess the camera's upstairs.
yeah, I suppose it's all the other charges, yeah.
Yeah, so $3,000 for 2 cameras.
Yeah.
I can't find it, so.
And that's installed.
Yeah.
And then, another topic about cameras. Like I hear through the grapevine, someone's complaining about police having camera access.
No, someone didn't complain. The guy who puts cameras in was the one that didn't advise it. I don't know what his thoughts were that people think then that the cops would use it as a, what would you say? Spy
Drunk
tactic.
trap?
Yeah, spy.
Are we talking about the cameras up at the golf course?
Well, that's one of them, you know, because it looks at the bar.
Right. That
Because
was,
we have to decide, because that will have to come off Lucas's, it's on my phone, it was on my phone and Lucas's phone. So someone had suggested it goes to the cop station, where they can watch it on their TV.
If anything was to come up.
Because, like, we don't want it on our phones.
No,
We just want it, like, the bank of cameras we have for our peak. So then if, say, you guys are doing the honor system for the golf course on Mondays, something happens, we don't have to wait until Tuesday when someone comes into work. We can review footage and start pursuing suspects.
right,
But, because the rumor I heard is they don't want us watching people drinking and then we're just gonna go arrest them for DUI. We can go sit up at the golf course anyway and pull people over when they leave.
what would be nice on their TV is it's big.
Yeah.
It is really hard to see.
I think
on
if
phone.
anyone should have access, it should be our police,
Yeah,
in all honesty.
well,
I agree.
I guess I get the, kind of, I understand the purpose of them saying that, but it's a small town, we all know what each other's cars look like anyway. We know who's at the bar when they're at the bar. There's no secrets anyway. I mean.
No.
Could I ask a question from the audience?
yeah.
Do we have verification that the cameras, are the cameras the school used still in the ceiling? 'Cause I believe when the school built the new school, they got everything new. They left wireless routers, they left stuff. And so are those cameras still in the ceiling? Can they be, can one of them be reused? Can it be rehooked up to this equipment? If it's still there, would it save some money? 'Cause it might still be there. That'd be something
Good
to ask
idea.
this installer. If it saves $1,000, if there's something, we would just have to get permission from the owner of the building, the board or whatever.
Just depends on what quality the cameras are.
Yeah, well, the school had, I mean, they had.
I mean,
it was-
and those cameras are probably old too.
It was 2019. So
No, not
it would
that
be
one.
just look in the ceiling to see if that camera is actually there.
Well, there's one right there, because I saw it when I was walking in, and it made me think of it, actually, right out by the entrance here. That one's still in the hallway there
Because
is.
they left wireless routers, they left everything.
And I believe there's one right up here above the lockers too, because I was looking at them when I came in.
They're all over. They're in the halls.
What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever heard anything?
I mean, I think if you're getting, you know what you're getting. Is there a warranty? You get the new stuff?
I mean, I just got his info, so I only had a brief conversation with him, so.
Well, maybe we'll just table it till the next
Well, I
meeting
mean,
and look at it. put
It's still
into the
there.
ceiling
I thought
and,
so.
You could certainly repurpose stuff, I just,
Just a thought. sorry.
at what
Yeah,
point
well,
are you
that's
gonna, you know, at what point are you gonna spend a lot of money and time trying to repurpose old stuff and cobble it together?
Well,
When you're gonna have certain quality on two and a different quality on one.
And honestly, having everything be on the same system would probably
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, because these are
easiest, rather
the
than
same
having-
cameras as like the pool, community center.
Rather than have a completely different system for this particular set of cameras, have it all the same thing.
Just my thought was if the installer could use them, they could use them and put them on the system, but if not, that's fine too. Just something to look at.
I don't know. I would like to just say, not anything to do with the cameras or anything, but just for everybody's like perspective of things. Looking at the budget and just seeing, I have been on budget and I hold the budget packet, but having to actually go through everything and see how much debt the city has right now and the problems that we're having in infrastructure. I know that like $3,000 doesn't seem like a lot and it is worth their safety. I'm not discounting that at all. But if we're thinking like, say, a 5-year plan, the amount of money we're gonna have to put into the infrastructure of our city and the amount of loans we already hold, and with pipes collapsing and things that are detrimental to all of the citizens in our city, literally saving every penny we can, because this is not monopoly money and we very frequently spend it as if it is. You know, because if you look through agendas, we're like, approve this amount, approve this amount, approve this amount. And we really have to act like we have no money. And then how tightly can we repurpose our budget? Because yes, I would love to have everything new and everything pristine, and I want your safety, so please don't discount that. I'm not at all. But when we're making decisions, and that's why I keep asking to like table this so I can look into the budget a little bit more. But I spent 10 hours on the budget yesterday, and to see how much debt and how it's been spread out, I'm not saying that we can't pay it. We could all pay off our debts in a certain amount of time. But we're gonna have so much more accrual of debt in the very near future that has to be something that's at the forefront of everybody's mind, every decision that we're making.
I have a question. Does it have to be, I mean, does it have to be a professional security system? Could we order some Wi-Fi security cameras on Amazon, hook them up to a computer monitor here, and call it good for now at least, until that's something, at least for the time being, till we save up for that point?
oh, we have the one over there. The only thing that scares me about that one is it does go to Pat's phone.
Well,
Yeah, if I get in, I can change the password. I'd have to figure out how to get in.
You gotta figure out too, if you're gonna record the data, where's it gonna go?
Yeah, there's so many different variables. I'm not saying that we cannot spend money. I would like to look before we do anything tonight. Just where
I
it's coming
think we
from.
need to like check in to the other cameras. I'm not sure of their quality or anything, and I agree. We should probably check in.
I would just say
But
like,
how are we gonna check in, well, then we would have to get somebody to come and figure out if we can use them even.
well, I mean, there's a lot of questions. You'd have to ask whoever, I mean, I would start with Tim Reed, but you guys probably know more than I do. Ask him like, hey, is the equipment all here? Or whoever, he would probably be the right
Yeah,
direction
yeah.
to figure out who that was. And then after that, like, okay, so yes, we can use all that. They'll give it to us, they'll donate it, whatever. Perfect, we have that equipment. Who did they use to install it? Can we go back to that company and say, hey, can we reconnect them? Or does somebody, you know, whatever. There's several different
Yeah.
layers to it. My point in all of it is, I mean, yes, in the end game, I would want this, yes. I'm just trying to let you guys know, in all decisions, not just the cameras, please think of that, because if we don't think of that now, the city will collapse eventually. We can't just keep adding more debt onto our plates. And I just think, from looking at the budget's perspective, I'm not saying that we're broke or anywhere near that, but I'm just saying that it could very quickly lead to that when we act like we have monopoly money.
If I may, I vaguely remember it was prisoners that were brought in to put the wiring in for the cameras.
Quality workforce.
Yes, but I also, because I was in that house with in-school suspended people. I think some of that has been removed though, but I don't know. It's been a long time ago and I don't know if it's all been removed, all the wiring's been removed and pulled out or not, but I would operate that it's not existent.
And those cameras, I remember there was cameras, at least some, when I was in school. And so if it's from back then, I mean, the
Well, he
quality's
said
gonna be.
2019.
Oh, these are from 2019?
No, that's on the school.
Oh,
So,
yeah, these
yeah,
cameras
the
were probably
cameras
there
are-
long
Oh, okay.
before that. I mean, if they were back, the ones that were back when I was in high school, they're probably terrible.
Yeah, he's flexible, so if you wanna wait
Good cameras.
time, you
later.
can. If you just wanna do like one, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
No, I appreciate
Look
you
at
calling.
it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you looking into it and asking him for replacement. I think your
I was
opinion
second.
is important on that.
They might-
So can we table it one more
Do you mind
time?
if it's missing one?
Wait,
Yeah.
And
I
let
mean,
everybody look into it a little bit?
Okay, yeah.
Yep, let's all do some research.
Everybody, if somebody want to be in charge of it, I don't.
I would prefer not. I have so much fun on the
Yeah,
budget. I can make a call, but if somebody else has 15 minutes, I think I would.
Yeah, I can do some.
Julia, would you do
Yeah,
that?
I can
All
look
right.
into it, absolutely.
Before it gets Tuesday, do we wanna give Banner a
We
call?
gotta give Banner a call here. I told her she wanted 7:30. The only thing about number 13 is, I did meet with the gal that toured the clubhouse. If we did do anything with her, it would be a possible lease. But I invited her to come to the next meeting, and from that, we can decide. So that's all that
With Shelley Russ, right?
Shelley Russ, yep. And her son was there, he did a lot of measuring. He did tell me that a typical lease right now in Sioux Falls, like us is responsible for the outside, it'd be the re-siding, the electrical and new floor. They would do the inside and they would prefer only to have one bathroom. So if there is a sewer issue in that one woman's one, she said, I would have no problem. I don't even know if you want to do this, but maybe it'd be an option to start fixing it up. She could lease, I don't know. I told her to come and present at the next meeting and then we can decide. So that's what's going on there. So Tanya from Banner is on vacation and she's going to try to explain things to us. It was confusing to me when I talked to her the first time. I thought, we don't have money for sewer right now, we have enough sewer. But this is just to reassess everything on the west part of town, because there is lines, and then if we want to apply for money, there's money out there right now. But it will cost around $8,000 just for this, just for that. But it's a gamble if we don't do it. So I'm going to let her explain it to you.
Carrie, I'm gonna take off.
Okay,
You want me to pick you up? Call me.
I can walk.
We can give you a ride.
Barely your flashlight's on.
No, jeez.
Laughing
I can't get it to shut off.
I was talking to somebody else, Trudy.
Well, I'm just going to leave it on. I can't find it.
Can you shake it? Will it go off if you?
No.
Mine
Mine
does.
does.
Mine shakes.
My husband does that too, it's awesome.
But I shake it all the time and then it comes off.
You're like,
It's off.
There it's on. Okay. Now I'll try it again.
technical difficulties.
While we're waiting for that, so I just have a really random question. For like all the ordinances and like our whole like book and whatnot, you know how it's written in like 1980 something like that?
Yeah.
And then everything's in just posted.
Hello, this is Tanya.
Tanya, it's Darla. We're finally calling you.
No worries. Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you
one
for
of
letting me
those.
do this.
So I'm going to let you go ahead and explain it to them.
Okay, that sounds good. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So the contract in front of the council tonight that was tabled previously, it's a contract that will do basically two things. It will update the 2020 facility plan that was completed for the wastewater system to allow the city, if they want to move forward with the collection system improvements, to obtain updated costs for those improvements. So going into this contract for $8,200 isn't committing the city to going forward with the improvements. It's not committing the city to increase rates. The only thing it's doing is providing updated costs to allow the city to apply for funding. So that if you apply for funding and we receive a favorable funding package and want to move forward with it, then the city could decide at that point whether to move forward with the funding and the loan. But the reason is that inflation has changed pricing so much since the facility plan was completed in 2020. And so if the funding would be applied for without having the costs updated, the funding would be insufficient to complete the improvements. And so what the funding or what the costs would be updated for is it's the phase 1 improvements for the collection system. And these were the funds that were originally awarded to the city, but the city diverted them to the wastewater plant because that project had such high inflationary impacts. So it would be the cost to complete sewer improvements in Ofsted Street, in the alley between Ofsted and Union, and then in the alley between Union and Broad, and then also in First Street from Ofsted to the alley east of Iowa Street. And then in addition to updating the costs, we do one meeting with the city to go through those costs, a meeting with city council to present the costs, and then also if the city decided to go ahead with funding, we would do a public hearing, and that would just notify the council and the residents of the impact of applying for the funding, what the potential rate impact could be. And so that is what's included with it. The one thing I do know that partly with CCOG indicated that the CDBG grant has increased for this next funding round for October, $750,000 maximum to a maximum of $2 million. And so that's why she thought the city may want to go ahead and apply. And so it's uncertain if that $2 million level will continue. The latest phone call I've had with her, she indicates that it possibly will. But kind of for a timeline, the city could apply for CDBG funding this December. And then in addition to that, they would apply for SRF funding in October of this year. You get on the state water plan in October, you apply for the loan funding in January, you find out about the loan in March. So really by entering into this right now, you're getting updated costs to allow you to apply for all those things. And then the time when the city would need to make a decision about whether they wanted to enter the loan and move forward with the project would occur sometime next April. So hopefully that addresses most of the city's questions. I would welcome to answer any other questions though that the city would have.
So this is for originally the phase 2 that we took the money from to put into phase 1 of the water waste treatment facility, correct?
I did hear that. Not quite, because the way we did the report, we had the wastewater treatment plant improvements. And then on the collection side, we had a phase 1 collection system improvements and a phase 2 collection system improvements. And so in looking at the condition of the treatment plant and the condition of the collection system, the treatment plant was in worse condition. And so the city, at the recommendation of Banner, moved forward with the treatment improvements because they were in the most need. So what would be applied for right now is actually the phase 1 collection system improvements.
Tanya, just so I'm,
Phase 2 collection system improvements, the intent of that was that as part of phase 1, the entire town would be televised. So they would essentially take a camera and run it through the sewer of the remaining portions of town to identify if there's any areas in the collection system that are in poor condition that should be identified for a phase 2 collection system improvements.
Tandy, just so I'm clear, we took phase one money for the collection system and with the state's blessing, put it into the treatment facility project, right?
Correct, and it was even at the recommendation of the state.
Right,
at
yep,
the time.
yep, the state said go ahead, and so now we're getting another shot at the same type of money that we got the first time for the collection system. We're getting a shot at a couple different pots of money for the same project, right?
Correct, a couple different pots of money, both CDBG and SRF. The only thing that I would say is different is, the last time the city applied for the collection improvements was when all the ARPA funding was going through.
Yep.
And at that point, most communities got a significant amount of funding.
Okay.
So the grant funding, I should say, the portion of grant funding awarded to the city may not be as high as it was last time.
But the total amount is higher, and in order to be eligible, we've got to have legitimate, up-to-date cost estimates on what this will take us.
Absolutely. And the other thing is with the treatment system improvements, rates have gone up. And so the city's rates are getting high enough where the state doesn't want to see towns burden too much with rate impacts. And so I think that will be to the city's advantage to get some grant funding. And the other thing I believe last time is the city qualified for lower to moderate income. We call it LMI. And when you qualify with a lower to moderate income, it makes you more eligible for grant funding as well.
So what we would vote for tonight would be to go ahead with it?
To update the costs, to provide the city the information, to provide the funding.
Sorry. Okay.
Tandy, just sorry to jump in again, but to be clear, we've already contracted with you to do this once, and so what this letter of contract is an update to everything else we've previously agreed on for that project, right?
So we did a report previously
Okay?
called the facility plan, and so what this amendment would do is it's amending that facility plan. So we're taking that existing written report and amending the costs in it and updating those costs. And so yes, we're not changing anything in it, we're just getting updated cost information with current bid pricing.
Thank you.
Yep, I appreciate the questions, because you're trying to explain it clearly, but we always know that there's a few things out there yet that need to be clarified.
How about you guys, any other questions? Well, can we talk about it, and then I'll just call you back here in a little bit?
Yep, that's just fine. If you would need anything else, please call.
Just an update on the payment that we talked about at that meeting.
Yes.
Abigail, tell me about Abigail. The money was,
We put in the request for the money. I haven't been able to get in. I'm fighting trying to get into the bank website. I probably need to call support. But I have just been waiting to see that money come in so that we can pay the contractor. Since it's such a large invoice, we just don't have the money to, write the check until we have that money.
Oh, and that's completely understood. Cities don't have that kind of money until the money comes from the state. And I did email Harley, and
Okay.
she got back to me actually earlier today, and I apologize because I wasn't in the office.
You're fine.
But the state is on like some kind of training in Denver with the funding kind of arm of that group. They expect to be back in next week, and so I think between next week or early the following week is when the city should see the funds come through.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for it. Thank you.
That sounds great.
do we need to apply then for the next one already, since it takes so long, or no?
No, you don't apply until the pay request comes in from the contractor.
Okay,
And so we typically prepare that around the 20th day of each month, so coming up here in just a few days, we'll get that ready.
okay,
Or the contractor will submit it, we'll review it, and then it will come before the city the first meeting of every month. So
Okay.
on September 5th is when it will go. So if Abigail can just right after that meeting on the 5th turn around and get that into CCOG, that'll
Okay.
set everything in motion to get the application through the states, and then the funds turned around and back to the city.
okay.
Does the contractor want a letter just written up or drafted up just with all of our finance stuff going on so that they know that we will pay, that it is not?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think there's been a few delays on this project just due to the city not getting that in as quickly, but I think with everybody being aware now, and the contractor does understand too that it takes a couple weeks usually. Usually I would say historically it's been between 2 and 3 weeks from the time the council approves payment until it goes through CCOG and then to the DANR and then gets kicked back around in the city. So it takes a couple weeks and that's normal, so.
Okay, I just didn't want them to think that we weren't pulling our weight on that end.
I understand. Good question. And I'll let the contractor know that you guys even, discuss possibly doing that.
Yeah, so let them know, just keep in touch, because we're kind of all just floating out there. So just let us know. So, okay, and I will call you back at the end of the meeting, is that all right?
That sounds great. You can even, if it's easier and you want to text me, and I'll just text you back so I got it, whichever is easier.
Oh,
for you,
okay,
that's fine.
that's fine with you. All righty, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
If I may make a comment, the state has a cap, and I think Abby knows about it. It's a cap to how much you can raise the rates to the citizens. And I think it's usually
Yeah, I
about
don't
3,
remember the
it's
exact
3%, I think is what it was. And you can't go over that, otherwise then it starts,
And I think they're aware of that too, Tanya. She made reference
I
to
didn't know
that.
I didn't know if the rest of the council knew that there is a cap in existence, that when you raise rates, you can't go over 3%. And I think that's the
How long
figure.
of a time period does that span, like 3%, and then you have to wait like X amount of
Yeah,
time
yeah.
before we going?
Yeah,
Okay.
because,
So, with that being said, we do have 3 motions that we do have to act on. So, do you want to do this? You really don't have a whole lot of choice. I mean, this isn't committing to the whole projects, it's just to get the updates, correct?
And it sounds like we have to do that to see if we can even get the other funds anyway,
Yes.
so
Right.
there's no sense in.
And this is leading into everything that I was talking about.
What was that?
So yes, it does eventually have to get done because there's pipes literally collapsing, so they will have to go through with it at some point, regardless if we get the money or not. So,
If she thinks that more money than normal is going to be available, maybe it's a good time to jump on it.
Yeah, because there's no guarantee next year. She
Right.
said
Yeah.
that I went to that sewer meeting, and she said it's looking possible, but there's no guarantee.
Well, it's not gonna cost us anything to check, right? I
Well-
understand that.
We have to pay $8,200
$8,200, okay.
plus tax. That's what we have to pay.
Oh, okay, I see.
So the 8,200, that is for updating the plans.
To apply. And we're kind of on a timetable because they got to get it done so they can get it submitted. I think by October, I believe she told me.
So are A and B, sorry, I'm a little confused, are A and B tied together then? A is to approve the amendment that allows B to happen? I'm a little confused here.
I don't know what B is. A is something that we previously had done that we're paying them to update. It's doing something again. I don't think it's tied to B.
Oh. Tanya had requested that I be on the agenda. Honestly, I don't understand much to do
Oh,
with
I'm
this
sorry.
project either.
I'm sorry, I'm in B and C. The 95, 447, 37 is money we already owe them for things they've done.
Right.
I'm sorry.
so we don't need A and we can just continue with B and C.
Yeah, I guess I'm asking what A is. I don't understand what amendment we're talking about.
A was on the agenda before, for the last meeting. That's when the gentleman was here and he wanted to discuss the amendment a little bit more.
Gotcha, so that's referring to that past one. Okay.
Yeah, so that was just tabled from the last meeting.
Perfect, thank you, sorry.
But that
maybe-
amendment is exactly what Tanya just agreed.
Just
with.
explain.
Yeah, okay.
So we really
just
don't need
need
it, do we?
Thank you for adding it, Abigail.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It's one of those things I was like, it was tabled, throw it on. Might as well, it's already 3 pages.
Okay, I'll make a motion to propose to complete the described engineering services for the hourly amount, including reimbursable expenses not to exceed 8,200 plus taxes.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? And motion is carried. So I will let her know to proceed, correct? All right. And then the other one is to pay Banner out of the sewer fund. That's this thing. That's that separate bill. So we need a motion to approve paying Banner.
I would make a motion to approve paying Banner Associates $9,500. Wow, 9,000. They're a missing comma. Is that supposed to be 95? Hold on a second, sorry.
There's an extra,
There's an extra 4 in there, I think, is that right? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Try that again. I will make a motion to approve paying Banner Associates $9,547.37 from the sewer fund.
I apologize.
No worries.
Chunky fingering that.
Okay, so there's been a motion made to approve paying Banner $9,547.37 out of the sewer fund. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? You okay with that? All in favor? Aye. Against? Motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to number 15. And if you want to go now, you may, sir.
Okay.
Or is there anything else on it?
No, just on 17, I feel like I ruffled your feathers a little earlier, Cindy, I'm sorry about
No,
that.
that's okay.
We have to pay, Cindy has done work for the city rightly, whether or not she was supposed to or whatnot. We've had this come up, I think, once before. We ought to pay her.
Yeah.
We ought to pay her whatever we were gonna pay her, and then I will figure out if there's any way we can continue.
Okay.
If she's helping out, it's appreciated, so.
I mean, because I was hired as, I was on council
As custodian.
and I was a custodian.
So she shouldn't have really been.
Well,
And they said I just couldn't make $5,000.
I'll have to find out for sure, but there's.
So I'm like,
I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not gonna tell you which city it was, but there was a time where I got told, we've always done it this way, and my answer was, well, it's always been legal, so we gotta do it a different way now. But I will find out and let you know as soon as I can.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Sam.
So the swimming pool has closed. There is some issues with the swimming pool, and I think in the future we are going to have to think about, I don't know, a new pool down the road. But if we can get some community support, maybe start some fundraising, I think it's something we really do need to look into. And maybe let some of the organizations, I don't know, Julia, did you go to that meeting that day? Were you able to go to the, did they ever contact you?
About the chamber?
Yeah.
Yes, I did go to the chamber meeting. Nothing was discussed about it.
No, of course not, but maybe that'd be a place we could bring it up.
Yeah, absolutely. They were planning several different fundraisers and stuff and kind of allocating where things were going. So I can certainly ask if they'd be willing to help, organize some fundraising for it.
The rough estimate would be about $1 million.
Yeah.
For a pool?
I'm not joking, yeah.
No, I believe you. I actually looked into what other towns who have recently redone theirs paid.
That would be to redo ours, not to.
Oh, that's not to build a new one.
No.
To build a new one,
About
well,
3 million.
that's,
Because
well,
of the lining and the bathhouse.
Yeah.
And everything that was.
so Beersford was contracted in 2019. So granted, that's 2019 pricing. They paid, I'd have to look again, but I believe it was 1.3 when it was all said and done for their brand new pool.
Total with the bathhouse and the pool.
No, I think that was just the pool.
The bathhouses.
Yeah. I'd have to look again, I can't remember. I can look at some of the numbers though and have
I
them
just
ready
know
for
that
next
it is
time.
in our proposed budget, like as a wish list thing, and
Yeah.
roughly.
I can do some looking and see what other towns paid for just like the new pool itself and or with the bathhouses.
Like
just-
Akron's right now, I know, their pool house was still in pretty good shape.
Yes.
Ours is not,
Right.
you know, so we need a new bathhouse.
And it can happen in phases.
Yeah, it could. I think Beersford started with the bathhouse, and then they went to the pool.
My concern is if we built a new pool, where are we gonna expand it out to? Because our pool's kind of in a weird spot.
Yeah, I think we did the pool, but only the park.
Yeah,
That's the only direction we could go.
because the water tower's
Water
right there,
tower's
there's road
there,
here,
and
road
road.
here.
Yeah,
So,
just something, but as for next year, just because of, you know, the kids just throw their bikes. In the past, there used to be 3 poles up to the corner. So right now, you see the lifeguard cars there. That wasn't allowed years ago. And I don't know why those posts got taken out.
Probably when they redid that side of the road right there.
Yeah, probably, because that's a new road. So the lifeguards, everybody parks to the north. They don't park there because that really isn't a safe spot when you look at it, because that's where kids are. And so the posts were there, and then the picnic table would be up there, and the bike rack. Right now, the bike rack is pushed into the fence. And it would put it up there, so kids had to go up there to eat. Because right now, down in that little pit, it's muddy. You know, that's where there needs to be some work done.
Right.
So, because the little pool at the end had a lot of mud. And it's kind of embarrassing when you bring people in and there's mud in there. So I think that's something to look at next year. Maybe they could the city guys could put 3 posts there and we could keep, I think just safety. I even thought once it'd be nice, maybe the FFA or something would do a little landscaping of rock. Weeds became a big issue. It was kind of embarrassing in the end. I was there one day with my grandkids and one lady said, "Nice pile of weeds." And it was embarrassing. It was right running down into the baby pool, these big thick weeds. So we need to make the appearance. It's already in bad shape. We don't need it to look any worse. So just some things to look at for next year. Finance updates, Abigail? Oh.
We can skip it. We actually can't. How many did you print? Did anybody look at it? Hopefully.
I didn't get it.
I don't have
There's-
I only asked for a couple copies. It is really, really large.
It's
This is not a
off of
formal.
Brian's spot.
Just thanks out to Abigail yesterday. Abigail, Kendra was here last night till midnight.
And I have barely touched it, so, if you're gonna thoroughly look through it, the first probably 20 pages are gonna be outdated. How it is set up is not how my brain works, and it is a little outdated. I think it made sense to who did it before, and that's great. It does not really make sense to me. I had somebody come from Centerville, and she was so nice, so thanks to her so much for everything she helped me with yesterday. All this is just a generalized copy of everything that will have to go into the budget. For this meeting, all I have to do is basically present and say that I've started working on it. So I have started working on it. At the September meeting, we will do the first reading the first week, and then the second reading of the budget the second week. That will be the full outline, and I'll make sure I get it to you beforehand so you can thoroughly look it over and bring any questions you have to me. So basically, if you look at these later pages, they look like probably page 14 on. And really all you're looking at is the end column. I know there's a lot of columns. For me to look at it, I would prefer to delete all those, but I don't want to delete any numbers that I would like to compare and contrast to see where money doesn't quite make sense to me. If I look back far enough, I can typically try and figure it out. So those last 2 columns you'll see, I tried to bold all of them. I'm sorry, I think I missed one here, I noticed on one page. They'll say January to June of '23 and then the '24 budget. If you see those last 2 columns of some of them at the top, you'll see like employee, sorry, let me back up here. Expenses is at the top, really small letters, and then you'll see like police, finance office, and it's broken down into those categories. At the end of each of them, you'll see the January through June of '23. So I have gone in, because the system is outdated, I had to go in and pull every number myself. So there's no exporting of anything. So that's why it took me so long, because I had to, every number you see is pulled by hand. And so that's why I haven't gotten all of the 24 proposed budgets in here yet, just because I am trying to see what last year's, so you'll also see a couple columns back, it says January through July of '22, and then the 2023 budget. So potentially what you're looking at is to double that number, and that's what you're gonna propose your budget to be. But then you also wanna look back to see, was there like a really high inflation every year, and so that number needs to go up again, or can it stabilize? We know that it's gonna be the same for whatever line item that is, and we can maintain that going forward. So that is what I will be looking going into the 2024 budget. For each of those, I will include the increased price for salaries, which some of them already are done. And let me look in here and see. I apologize, I don't think I printed off the updated salary form. I calculated at 6%. That is what we discussed at our budget meeting. And so that is what I calculated going forward, with the exception of the police officers who already received their raise, so they will not get the 6% raise. So theirs will just stay at the rate it is now. But you'll still see an increase in the budget, because obviously it will go up from the last year's proposed. That's a lot of information. Do you have any questions?
So had Patty done any of the 2024 budget, or are you actually doing the budget?
I am doing the budget.
And it's due,
Yeah,
so
so
she
she
could
will.
probably use it.
Yeah, we have to have this first reading by the 7th.
Yes. So today is the last date. I can tell you that I'm working on it, and I am working on it, and I have all of our up-to-date numbers at least in here. Now I just have to calculate going forward. I also have to decide for some of their wish lists that Julie and I looked at, and what we can and cannot do. I am going to be erring on the side of caution of what we cannot do. Everybody can be mad at me, but just going forward and how much loans that we have currently, as well as the projected loans that we're gonna have to take out for the rest of the water treatment facility, and projected for what we'll have to take out for the second part that we just approved for her to do, or at least look into, at least millions of dollars in loans. So depending on how much money we get, obviously. I'm not saying I'm nixing all of the wish list ideas, so I don't want any one department to think I'm completely throwing anything out. I just am trying to get down to the nitty-gritty and see what we actually need versus something that could probably be pushed off. There are a lot of things in the budget that have just been done on a rotation because it could fit in the budget, and not necessarily because we wanted to save money. Like a good example is the printers. We've got new ones every, don't quote me on this, 2 or 3 years. So they always renew every 2 to 3 years, and they would rotate where they were facilitated at. That is great. If we can do that, that would be fantastic to make sure that we have new and upgraded equipment. But for me looking at it right now, I'm gonna try and push those things off a little bit to just see if we can, get through what we need to do until it's necessary, or until we have to actually rotate those things. So I will try and get those completed. I will send them out to the department heads who gave me those wish lists, as well as to you guys to see if there's anything else that needs to be. I will send them out to you first, and then I will send them out to them after we have finalized it. Do you have any questions on any of those wish list items that you guys are a part of?
I just want to say thank you for.
Yeah, it's a lot, and like I said, it's just, I'm great at math, don't get me wrong, and I love math, but when one person congregates how they do something, and it's a process, and I jump into that process, and it just doesn't make sense to me. If I could start from scratch, it'd be easier, but we don't have time to do that, so.
Yeah, and I would have absolutely no idea where you would begin, so thank you for.
Yeah, no, I will try my
doing
best,
this.
and it really is replicating last year's budget. I'm not gonna say
And
I'm
that's kind of what she,
creating anything new
she
here.
kind of told us that from Centerville.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I know when Cindy and I went to that class, they have that form, you know, from a couple years before, last year,
Yeah.
you know, proposed budget for this year and then the final budget and all that stuff. So, yeah, you kind of go by the previous budgets and then see what else needs to be added in there. And I'm sure it's still a lot, and then to get all those figures put together.
Yeah.
She did
That's a
talk
lot.
to us about, we use QuickBooks.
Oh, yes.
You want to tell them
Yeah.
that?
Do you guys have any questions about any numbers you see? They're not exact right now, and Vicki, if you want to look through it, you're more than welcome to. I'm trying to look. There's a lot of things I still need clarity on, so, skip over some of these. I will update the equipment bond repayment. I just don't need to update it. I need to look at it and just redo the interest rates on them and look at what we've paid. So it will, the formulas that are already in Excel will just work into the next year. I think for me, looking at the documents and not really knowing the discussion, there must have been some discussion about the community center versus the golf course, and in the 2023 budget, they were together. In the 2022 budget, they were together, and it looks like they started to separate into 2023, but then it was not separated, and then it looked like it was going to be separated again in going forward. But I don't know the why or where that was coming from. So that is why if you look on page 7 at the community center, there's a lot of blanks on it because it was never actually formulated. It is not in the 2022 separated. I did look back because that is a complete and final copy. And I relied heavily on the 2022 final report when I started doing this. So I will look into it a little bit more. Landon had requested them to be separate, but just because it was requested doesn't mean I can necessarily do it in 2 weeks. But if anybody knows any more information as to where that kind of was coming from or anything about that, I'm willing to put in the work if it needs to be separated. But for time constraints, if it isn't a needed thing, I would prefer to keep it how the 2022 looks because I know that's accurate. The second penny sales tax, I'm gonna need help on it, so I will call Centerville again because it's pulling a lot of formulas from different numbers and I'm going in and changing those numbers and it's not carrying over correctly and I don't know how to calculate the second penny sales tax. So I will ask Centerville on that. The 2021 street chipping ceiling, this was in here for the 2022 budget and on the wish list or the CIP plan, 5-year plan, it is listed that we do it every other year. I spoke with Lonnie and with Lucas and they said that it has not been done every other year, but it has been budgeted for that. They did use some of that money that was budgeted for the chip sealing to go into the equipment we purchased so that we could redo more of the renovations ourselves. And so that kind of plays a factor. This would obviously go up in price. It is budgeted for $60,000 every other year. The summary sheets of the profit and loss, I have not inputted for 2020. I have gotten what I can into 2023. I have not projected for 2024 because I only just did the 6 months for 2023. So as soon as I get all that completed, I can then project for 2024. So that's why you see a lot of the blank lines as I'm filling in the 6-month completion, and those will fill in. And then really it just goes into the receipts and the expenses. So I was able to do most of the receipts and then project those for what we will spend into 2024. It's, or how much money we'll be getting in, sorry, for the receipts, how much we're receiving. I can calculate that pretty easily. It's a lot less than how much we're expending, and at least in the line items. So it's a little bit faster to do, because typically we get a large chunk of money in and then we break it into whatever we need to expend it. Other than that, I think that's bring things to a cloud and different things like that. The system itself changed a little bit, and in our budget meeting, if I remember correctly, Pat said she didn't feel comfortable with the outlook and the look of it or whatnot, but that is the direction it has to go.
Is that a subscription then, or is it like a yearly?
Yes and no. So you buy it, and then to get like the support and those types of things, and it's still an annual cost like anything. Yep. And we do pay for it, however, not annually, semi-annually. I think it was in the budget if I looked back to the early, like 2010 there. So it's not something that will be a huge new expense if we continue doing it. But the lady from Centerville said that they use a company called Banyan. I reached out to them, so hopefully I'll be receiving information back. So it is a very large company. They offer a lot of different things, and Centerville uses them for 3 main parts of what they offer. I can look real quick and tell you the names of them. Hold on. I'm just looking at my email. You said that's called Banyan? Banyan, yes. What?
It's pretty common.
She said all of these small towns around that area, so Conde Irene, them, Beersford, Viborg, she named off a couple more. They all use this system. So they're all familiar with it, they know how it works. She did say that it is a bit more expensive. She said that everything is up to date. They have a support service, so if you're struggling with something or a form won't open or something like that, you can just call and they'll walk you through it. That is a lot more transparent, which is what our finance department is lacking in our city, is transparency. So in Centerville, they literally have the exact same setup as us. They have a finance officer, they have a deputy finance officer, their city council is set up the same, the number of people, their town is the same size, so the workload is, very similar. And their deputy finance officer does her part, but it is transparency, as then the finance officer can see everything, and whatever the finance officer does, then the deputy finance officer can also see. So if one was gone for the day, the other one could still see what was going on, expenses out, expenses, any money in, those types of things. It's just a lot more transparent. She said it's also very user-friendly, it is easy to use. She would be more than welcome to come and train anybody.
Would the new version of QuickBooks maybe be more up to date though too? And
yes and no. So what was her name?
or is it still kind of
Roxanne Clark.
I don't know.
She used to be
came
a
in.
visit. We had to call her because we were in a stump mode.
So both of us couldn't figure out what we were looking for and how to maneuver it and get the right data that I needed to pull forward for the next
QuickBooks
year.
is a nightmare. QuickBooks is a nightmare.
Yes,
I've
and
heard
so
Awful.
I think it was good in its prime.
Yeah.
And it's just not in its prime anymore. So she came in and she said she uses it for her personal whatever. So she has an updated version, and it is the cloud version, it's the online version. And she said it looked a little bit different, but she was still able to navigate it. So I don't think the capabilities are going to increase at all, or that transparency that we need and that our community is looking for going forward is not there.
That's just a move on to
And
something
really
better.
the struggle with QuickBooks, or with any of our systems, is they're all completely separate. I have the water billing program on my computer, and I print reports from there, and finance officer manually puts them into QuickBooks. And Square's a different deal altogether, using it at the community center. But I write the reports, I do the reports from Square, and then they are manually inputted into QuickBooks. And payroll is manually inputted into QuickBooks. So it's a lot of extra steps and a lot of extra work. Pat knew how to work it, she was able to do it. But if it's just going to be me sitting in the office for the time being, the less steps, the better.
Is that Banyan able to integrate with those programs to automatically transfer the data?
She said because of how it works, some of it will, but she's not sure at what capabilities it would actually be able to pull. But to give you an idea, our QuickBooks is outdated enough that Excel won't pull from it.
Oh, Lord.
It will, but in the wrong formats, because I
Yeah.
tried to, and it then skewed all of the data. So I'm sorry, I did look at my email, but I sent it from their online inquiry, I didn't send it from my email. But there are 3 different things they use it for. They have like probably 12 different options that you can pick from and use as a city government, but they focused on 3, and it does everything. So it would be able to incorporate the programs that she's using for the water bills and all of that, and incorporate to one. And if I'm understanding, I was emailing with her today because I was looking, I didn't realize how similar we were in size. I thought they were a little bit bigger than us. I was looking at their website because with what we have going on at the clubhouse, which is a city entity, and just all the events and different things that are going on, we really do need to overhaul our website. And I was looking at what we use currently. And it is a municipal government or government agency. I can't remember, syntax.
Yeah, it's something.gov or what.
Sorry, that's PayGov for the
That's-
water
oh.
billing system. Syntax, it's not syntax, I don't know why that's, my brain is really fried today, I apologize.
Hey, you were here 10 hours yesterday.
But, whatever we're using now, I clicked on it to see if I could manipulate the website at all, so I could change things and get that done. And I'm assuming you have the password for it?
Yep.
So, because you have changed and added things. But that is also something else we're using completely, so none of it is integrated. So I talked with her today and asked who set theirs up or how it's set up, because theirs is very, very nice. It's very user-friendly. You can pay your bills on there, you can get through anything, it's just so clear. I don't know if anybody's gone on the Centerville website, but if we could emulate something like that, it would be very helpful and forward-thinking for our city. So I reached out to her, and they did use a local person to kind of help get everything and all the information gathered. The pictures taken, they're all local pictures. The picture on our website is not even of our town. So just like those types of things, I think
Yeah.
it really brings that personality into it. And so if somebody was looking at it, like wanting to move here, if they looked at that picture, it isn't, at least I looked at it, and I don't think it's any of our houses.
It's not.
Yeah, it looks like it's maybe in the eastern part of the country.
I think there's a palm tree in one of them.
Is there a palm tree? Yeah, it isn't anywhere near. Again, and that might just have been something, a strong point, not something that was emphasized by prior mayors or not an important thing, but I do think it is important going forward. I think the ease of it, so I was talking with her, she gave me the company name, and I can look into them a little bit more. Again, not precedent right now for me because I need to budget that. But I just wanted to get the information so I can give it to you guys, because I do think we need to stop putting Band-Aids on everything and look forward to see where we can go. And I think by doing that, we will get to the goal that we need to get to and stop spending money where we don't necessarily need to spend it. And hopefully, if we put money into something, it'll get us a little bit further down the road.
2 notes on the website. So, they had someone local design the website then and build it?
No, so she wasn't super, it was an email between 3 or 4 people. Let me go back and read it. I can read it to you guys. The first one she sent, I just texted her and asked who did your website, and she asked a guy by the name of Jared, who did you use for the website design? I know that they go through Squarespace, but did you work with someone directly? And
that's what I was curious.
He said yes. We had some help with the design to start from a local gal. Her name was Tara Locke. And then we worked with Maxwell Strat Marketing and Peer to finish it. And then she runs it, the day-to-day of it.
So I was curious if it was hosted through like Squarespace or Wix or something like that.
And that's what I was looking at, where ours was. And
I think it says down at the bottom.
It does, and that's, it's not syntax, it starts with a C, and I think there's an X in it, and I can't remember anything past that right now.
But it is important for the accounting program to be able to merge with the other programs and be, and a lot of places are for cities. They're actually designed
And the
for
ours
municipal.
is, our website
Yeah.
is, but we don't use it for anything else.
Yeah.
And the functionality of our website, and maybe we're not using it to its full potential, but the functionality of our website is really nothing.
Yeah, it's-
informational, but it's not interactive, it's not, oops, sorry.
I have designed several websites utilizing Wix
Me
myself.
too.
She said
Catalyst.
Thank you.
I mean, that is something I could do at least for the time being if we want something a little bit better.
And ours is fine, and it can,
don't-
she can get into it and change things, and if we're paying for a host of what
Yeah.
our website's called anyway. Yes, there are things that we need to add to it, and we need to add a community center page with the, calendar of events to it. And there are several things, that need to be done if we have the time to do it. And I do think by the end of the year, going into the spring, we really need to get that done. So if anybody else wants to do that, that's completely fine. For the next month and now into October, since I will have to apply for the money from the government, my focus has to be on this. But I do think those are really in line with what we have to do.
I can certainly look into it. You just have to let me know how to access it. I can get with her on that and.
She has the password for it.
Okay. Is it something that has to be accessed from a certain system, or can you just do it, is it URL based? I mean, you could access it
Is the
from any computer
website
anywhere.
online based or is it on your computer?
I have it bookmarked and password saved.
Okay, so it
So
is
it's-
URL based.
So it's
Okay.
easiest if I do it on my computer.
Sure, sure.
But
No, sorry,
I
if
could
it's-
find
If
the,
it's
But
downloaded
it's-
this program, but you use the internet to get to it, so it's
Yeah,
URL.
so it's something like if I wanted to help update things I could work on from my home computer
Correct.
or whatever.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help with that.
Was there
Just
something
look,
else?
we just talk about things and it's working.
Was there something else I needed to?
The one report that she talked about yesterday and was every month, it
Oh, yes.
summarized
Um,
where they were at in their budget. So like police would know where they're at.
Or like a year, like a month to date, like an MGD report, more or less.
Vicki, you've asked about it several times, and there's just never an answer to your question of like, where are we at monetarily now? Like, where are the accounts at now, and anything like that. And what was created is at the beginning, it's called that at a glance. That some of you guys can see. That was what was created, and it does give you the profit loss value of it, but it doesn't really tell you the amount of anything. So I called, well, Jared happened to be here, so I asked him, and then I called Bonnie and just asked, was it ever given to you, like every month, like how much money is left in your budget? So you know how much has been spent, and your credit cards are paid off, and this is what you have remaining. And both of them said no, that they had to either ask for it.
And if the PD does that either.
No, Jared had said he had to ask for it if he
Yeah.
wanted it,
But
correct?
this program would do it.
Yes, so then it would just populate it, and then it would just be an email sent every month as like your to-do list. And then if somebody like from the community wanted to see it, it would be something like, oh, here we are to month, this is what it's looking like. Again, just that transparency that our community is looking for. And it also give us as council members who we don't see the budget, and if I would never have had to dig into this as deep, I wouldn't realize some of these things. So I think it would just provide that transparency a little bit more frequently.
I agree, and I think now is the time with everything going on now is the time to get rid of the mentality of, well, this is just what we've always used, this is the way we've done it. It's time to start fresh, move forward.
Yeah, she also did recommend, just because QuickBooks is outdated, whatever we decide to go with, if somebody comes in and is unwilling to learn QuickBooks because it's so outdated and they want to go to something else, if we've already purchased the update to QuickBooks and then have to purchase something else, what that kind of looks like, and then retraining them. There's also a group email of all of the finance people within the area, and I can't remember, she said state. I think she said state.
It might be state.
I think it's statewide, and so if they have a question about something, they can just shoot it off to this group, and they get several feedback. I know Pat was part of that, she mentioned it, and for our budget meeting, she brought some things forward from that. So if we had a similar the same system as 50% of the state, at least in our rural area, has, I think the feedback would be a little bit more conducive of how to change things and go forward. Any questions about any of that? If you think of any, just. Did you have any questions? Not right now.
No, the thing is that that the programs will act well with each other.
Yes.
And I've run into that with QuickBooks, that I've had to start over, and it's a pain in the neck because it won't let me go in and adjust for payoffs or things like that at the shop, and I hate that.
Yeah. And it really is not, so just for your guys from reference, there is like 600 different line items of things that we pay and receive money for. And when she came from Alcester and was looking at everything, it's a little bit different, but she could easily identify all those things. So it's not like completely upheaving everything that we're doing. It really is taking that data and just putting it into an updated system, and just how it processes from there.
Absolutely.
I know when we went to that class, Cindy, I was sitting next to a gal, she was from Miller, South Dakota.
Yeah.
And she she mentioned the two systems, Banyan and QuickBooks, and she preferred Banyan. It sounds like that's what they were.
Yeah, and that's what
She got a better
Kristen
idea
had
what was
said.
going on, it was easier to understand.
Yeah, and also, so there's also the legislative audit of South Dakota, which is really helpful if anybody wants to read anything about the budget. It gives a lot of information. She pulled that out for me to read and kind of look at things. And on there, because QuickBooks is so outdated, they've had to add things in. Like, hey, if this is still what you use, this is how you have to do it, because it's outdated.
And you had mentioned that Banyan is a little bit more expensive than what we're using before, right now.
It
But
will be.
But it sounds like it'd be well worth
To-
it.
And to be fair, we are paying for the subscription to the water program and the subscription to the payroll program. And like I said, Square's different entity. But
Well,
paying
and
for those,
we're also paying for you to enter it twice.
right,
Right.
paying for those three things separately, probably will get real close to the Banyan system, which will do everything.
Hopefully, like I said, I haven't heard back from them yet, and she said it was implemented before she started, so she did not have a frame of reference of how expensive it was.
Right.
So
I just feel like it's not gonna be as, if it was just replacing QuickBooks, I think it would look
yeah.
worse, but it would be replacing 3 subscriptions instead of just.
And for frame of reference as to what the.
I assume it does payroll.
Yeah, she said payroll.
I assume it does.
Payroll was on that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to update the computer system, or sorry, for QuickBooks, it would be at least $2,000 just to get the new version of QuickBooks. And that was on the wish list because it is necessary. It's a wish list, but it's actually necessary because this will be phasing out of what we have currently.
Did you get a rough estimate at all of what that Banyan cost?
I emailed them through their website.
Oh, that's what you're waiting for now.
Yeah. And I referenced the 3 programs that we were wanting, or that they use, so I figured that would be what we would need. And so hopefully they can get me a little bit more direct quote without so much communication back and forth, because I already told them what I wanted. So I will get the budget together and I'll present it, like I said, I'll get it to you guys beforehand so you can look through it and look through your respective departments to see if there's anything more overarching. Hopefully I don't make any big mistakes, but if you catch anything, let me know. And then I can change it for the first reading in September, and then the second reading will be the second meeting. After that, little changes can be made, but nothing substantial, and then it will be implemented in January.
And I agree with you, I think we ought to be on the conservative side of things right now, trying to figure everything out, where everything's at.
Yeah. And I could have a skewed perspective. I was looking at a lot of numbers yesterday, and so maybe the actual debt to income ratio, I am off a little bit, but when I was looking at the bottom line of everything, it does seem that we're, it's hitting pretty close. I guess I would prefer to save a little money than to, run
too.
close. So.
Never hurts to shoot to be, more on the safe side, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
No, I'm
more
done.
discussion? Already?
I'm done. Unless somebody else wants something from me.
Your 5 minutes is up.
But thank you for all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
Thank you
thank
for all your work.
Okay, so finance office updates.
The only update I really have is that we had the Central Finance Officer come in and kind of help walk us through some things. And we had one person pick up an application for Finance Office, but that was a week ago and I haven't seen it come back in. So,
Carrie had a couple ideas here.
Well, I was talking about Weiss, one of her sisters, and she was involved when she was working for different colleges that she was at. Help people find stuff for careers. I mean, like she suggests we go to college career centers, contact your different colleges. And you can go to your state job services, that's all free, and you can let them know what you're interested in. And she said the best paid site is Kell-Led Employment is a good place to go to, if you want.
I know we have some kind of account with them for other employment that we've posted. I just need to figure out how to go about getting it.
Do we have it on Indeed?
I was just gonna ask about Indeed.
We were just talking about it today. As I was looking back through all this, I was emailing Abigail all day, so sorry about that.
Totally fine.
I have access to my email all day long, so if anybody really wants to get a hold of me, that's what they need to do. I can't look at my phone at work, so, so that's why I was emailing you so much.
Oh, that's why we have email.
And did ask that, because I just wanted to see how it was worded, and I was curious as to why we hadn't got that much interest in it. And it just hasn't been posted to those places yet, so I was gonna help her get that up there. And then another thing to bring back to the Centerville website again, another cool thing they had all of that on there as well. So if you're looking for jobs, you could go to their city website. They also had links for the Eastern South Dakota state website, the full state of South Dakota website for any government positions. So yes, you're correct, and you can get those on there. So.
And one other thing she said you could go to is also go to Sioux Falls Job Board on Facebook. She said she'd be willing to post something there for us if we'd be interested. So,
Kind of moving on to the finance officer from Centerville. I don't know her name.
Kristen, I don't know. We have to find out. We are going to have to make her time worth it to come and help us.
So she mainly would just be consultation if I needed help on something in
Yes.
particular, coming down when I needed her.
And
So
she said she'd come another day if Abigail needed her to. She was very great to work with.
Yeah, no, she was very nice, very knowledgeable.
But we asked her what she would want to be paid. And she gets $27 an hour. And I said, would you be willing to do it for that, driving over from Centerville? Right now, the mayor has given her the okay to help us out a little bit, but I think a lot of it will be by phone.
Yeah, and she answered quick. I messaged her at like 10 o'clock last night, and
They've helped other people out, and
they've been in the bind with them, so.
they said they've had the same situation a couple times. So, I don't know what you think about that. I don't know how we do that.
I guess it would just kind of be
just kind of an expense, wouldn't it, like, just a single?
Yeah, we're not adding her on payrolls.
No,
It would
just
be
call it a,
consultation.
Yeah, I mean, I
just
would
like it's paying a bill.
Yeah, I would just write her a check as someone paying the bill.
Yeah. So
So just whatever.
what, do you guys think that's too much? Do you think that's,
I mean, she was fine with $25 an hour. Unless you guys really want $27 an hour. She didn't say she was fine with $25 an hour.
Then if she's fine, I say we do the 25.
And I don't think she'll have to come a lot, because she really is easy to work with on the phone. Email, she got back to me super fast. And so I think her time and email stuff, she doesn't care
no,
to be paid for.
she didn't,
She's just willing to.
she did not have to take time off.
Correct.
If she'd have to take time off, it'd be
Yeah.
a whole, and that's how come I don't think if we abuse it,
Yeah.
not saying coming forward, we're maybe gonna have to have somebody, whatever he finds out, somebody is gonna have to be, to help you, you know what I mean?
My biggest
Well-
struggle in all of this is I'm happy to learn how to do everything. I'm happy to do it, happy to do the work. The problem is the answering the phones and the dealing with the people who come in
She just gets
and taking the time
interrupted.
away to do that. So really, if there was a like part-time desk person
Yeah.
who worked even just a couple
Just
hours
as
a day
fill-in, yeah.
or
One,
like
one
one
question I have, do you know when the majority of your phone calls and stuff come in during the daytime?
It honestly depends
It-
on the day.
Day,
It can be
okay.
different day to day.
Okay,
A lot of people come in, I see a lot of like custom coils and Alcoda people in the afternoons. Mornings are normally typically slow. And then like as people start getting off of work, people start coming in one after the other to pay their water bill or something like that. And if there's something going on in town, I get a lot more phone calls. Or I'm gonna start getting phone calls on, when are you having the dumpsters in town? And
yeah.
that's a minute phone conversation that I really don't need to stop.
I was thinking,
What she's really asking
Yeah.
for is just even a day, a week where somebody could sit there so she could go over here for 2 half days.
Yeah, just a little bit of time that I don't need to be worried about the phone.
Do you at least have a headset so you can multitask during those stupid calls at least?
No.
Not stupid, I mean like the ones
I
that are not like stupid.
I didn't mean it like that. That's not what I meant. I meant like that.
I am on the phone all day long, so when I say that, I mean like the calls that you can have with your eyes closed basically and multitask during.
Yeah, no, I
So,
don't.
I wonder if that would be worth it too, if that would help, at least then you wouldn't have to walk back and forth, and walk back and forth.
Can you bleep that
That
out?
would be.
Can you bleep it out in the video?
Yeah? Are you kidding?
Censor it.
Yep.
Julia said a bad word.
So are you looking for a part-time job?
I did that, but I got in trouble. I worked for a company, a trucking company in Aberdeen while I was going to school. It was my second day on the job, and I had 2 phones to answer. One was like an inner terminal phone, and one was a straight across phone. And I hadn't been there long enough to learn the difference on the ringtone. And I answered the phone. I said, "Good afternoon, this is such and such Freightways." And the guy said, "This is John." He says, "I want to talk to Mr. Hook." And I said, "Okay." I said, "He's not here right now." I said, "May I take a message? What's your last name?" I was on the interterminal phone, didn't realize it. And the guy got smart with me and he said, "This is John from Hyman Freightways." And the Vicky kicked out in, and I said, "Well, this is Vicky from Hyman Freightways. I don't know who you are." And the gentleman in the other office that was listening to this exchange was laughing. And I'm thinking, oh crap, my second day. And after I got off the phone, I said, "Okay, Sterling, who was I talking to?" "The vice president of Hyman Freightways." I said, "Do I still have a job?"
Did you get to keep the job?
No, he was more respectful the next time he called in. But it was one of those moments where he just, it was mouth opened and I put both feet in.
Happens to the best of us. Yep.
So to follow up here, or just, could we have a, what was her first name again? Kristen. Kristen. We'll have to find out her last name.
Vogel.
Vogel?
How do you spell that?
VOGELI probably.
Oh, I can tell you in a second. And I might be saying it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I know.
Yeah, Vogel, I think.
It
There's a lot of
is,
vocalists.
yes, VOEGELI. KRISTI.
Oh, extra E.
Yeah, there's an extra E in that one, it threw me off.
Spell last name one more time.
That's not Spears for Vogel, I know.
Nope,
GELI.
that's a different one.
It is. I didn't know there were others.
So.
Her husband's name is Justin.
We need a motion to what we're gonna pay her.
I'll make a motion to pay $25 per hour to Kristen Vogel for finance office help.
I will second
All right, if there's no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Cindy, we'll have to table yours then according to Sam, correct?
Well, I just want to get paid the right amount. That's all I'm
Okay.
asking. I'm not asking to, I just wanted to get paid more.
Right. So what did you say?
I said 13.
Yeah, because she's still at the old rate of $10 from years past. So we pay, what do we pay?
Well, Kristen H was paid 12 or 13, I think, for custodial.
Yeah.
So I
hers
think
is-
sitting in an office. And all of our lifeguards started at 12.
Yeah.
12 to
12 or
13 is really like our base wage right now.
But because we can't pay you going forward.
No, I'm not, I'm just gonna take my name out.
No, I'm just saying, I don't think we can back pay you, like increase it for working.
Well, we haven't gotten paid for what I just worked.
I feel like we better talk to Sam on that.
Just
Yeah.
because that's what happened with, at the clubhouse.
Yeah.
That they had like promised her a different wage prior. And that's why it got backdated, so what was it, April?
Yeah.
I'm not asking for back pay. I'm just asking for the time I just been in the office to be at 13.
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just
I
saying,
know.
I think this is what it was, that was what the issue was before, and so it couldn't be done.
I think we need to talk to him on the right way to arrange it.
But I don't
too.
mind increasing it. I
No.
think that is accurate.
That's fine.
And if they keep increasing it, just do a check of back.
Yeah, we could do that.
We just gotta figure out how to word it properly, because I don't know how to.
I mean, we can put the motion in now, because it doesn't have any dates in it. It's just increasing it
Right.
in the system.
Yeah, we might as well do that now, and then we'll check with him on the back pay, right?
It wouldn't be back paid.
It'd be prorate.
This, this pay period ends Friday.
So
So it would be, whatever was worked while I was gone would be 13 an hour.
That's all I'm asking for.
Oh,
That's all
I see
know.
now. Okay, sorry, I thought you were talking prior to,
Oh,
I
no,
got you,
no,
I got
no,
you.
I'm just asking
Just
for
whatever's on
what I haven't been
this.
paid.
I'm up to speed now, again.
But I think we still gotta check with Sam. Sure. Could we make the motion contingent to talking to Sam?
Well, and, I mean, honestly, like, we should talk to Sam about it, but honestly, she's already worked the hours.
Right.
It doesn't make much of a difference what the rate is, if the question is being an employee in general.
I guess what I'm saying is if I give you a raise today, you wouldn't get that raise for the hours you worked previously. You'd get the raise for the hours you worked going forward.
Even if it was in the middle of a,
Okay, you would get paid the
I see what you're saying.
That's the only thing I'm saying, and I don't know if you have to then say like, that's all I'm asking for is the word.
yeah, we better check with the wording, because I hate to
But
say it wrong.
it's, how many days a week, 2? How many days was it?
7.
Oh, it was 7. I just, yeah, we're not gonna get in trouble. It's our money and we're asking.
But we still could talk to Sam, that it's
You
okay.
can go ahead and make it.
Yeah. So does someone want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to approve paying Cindy Peoples $13 per hour as a finance office help.
I'll second.
She probably should abstain from
I
voting.
am gonna abstain.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Okay, so we'll talk to you about that.
The only thing for custodian discussion is I've had some, not the best applicants, and most people hear that it's maybe 5 hours a week and they don't even apply. So haven't had much in the way of getting a custodian. I just wanted to update you guys on that, but it won't be as big of a deal with the end of the season coming around, because we won't have park really to worry about cleaning. It's just maintaining this office and these bathrooms and stuff.
Who does it up there at the event center?
They do their own.
They do their own? Okay.
I saw the 2 applications, and the one person was like from Nebraska.
They both live here. They have the
Oh, they
same
do.
phone number.
Oh, they're just using the Nebraska address.
No, she had no address on there. That's where she worked previously.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So just,
And I said I can call them. Yeah, I can call them and ask if they would like to interview.
oh,
We just haven't had much interest in it, since it's only a couple hours a week.
Somebody could refresh my memory, as far as pad insurance goes, are we paying her for paid time off? Or, I mean, we are, but
Paid
has
out.
that been approved? I can't remember.
It paid out, you paid it.
Hasn't been paid
She
out?
has
Paid
been
out.
paid out for.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
It was
know.
up to 45 days,
in the
and she was,
handbook.
under that. So, she was paid out only for vacation. And then she had a little bit of comp hours where she had worked overtime, so that was paid out, but only the vacation comp, no sick was paid out.
And has she been coming in and using the printer, city printer or anything?
She came in,
With the librarian lady one day,
Yeah.
wasn't it, Cindy, once?
Paige needed something for the library board
Okay.
meeting. And she just made a copy and took it to her. She didn't get on the computer because I didn't know the passwords and I don't know anything about that. And then she found a copy of what she needed over there, so she just made a copy of what Paige needed.
All good?
are we gonna be able to pay time off again, because it's 9:20?
Yeah, I think we'll
All right.
table the rest of it.
I don't think that decision needs to be made.
Just remember, Monday night, we have the planning and zoning, and that is for the variance of the fairgrounds. So it will be a short meeting, but it had to be 10 days after the posted it in the paper. So that will be Monday night, we'll have to be here at 6 o'clock, it shouldn't take very long. Does that sound good to everybody? And then,
Meeting on the 5th, school starts tomorrow.
yeah,
And one other thing, we have Meals on Wheels again next week. Pat and I would each do, stop shaking your head, Jared. Pat and I would each do 2 days of Meals on Wheels to cover, because honestly, not many people volunteer to help with that. And I understand a lot of you are working during the day. So if that's how it is, fine, but if you are able, it would be massive help if anyone who can would volunteer to help with Meals on Wheels.
That's
You would
when?
just be needed from 11:30 at the senior center. It max takes about an hour. We've really only had 13 deliveries lately. So if next week, Monday through Friday, if you could just let me know a day that you could do it, it would be a massive help. It would keep me from having to leave the office every day to do it. So even just being able to do one day is a huge help.
I'll let you schedule. I'm just going back to work next week. But I might have a couple days.
That's it for me.
All right. Is there any need to go into executive session?
I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, parentheses 1.
Personnel?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would like one police officer to stay.
Okay, so Cindy made the motion. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're in executive session at 9:25. Okay, we are out of executive session at 9:43. What time did we go in? I didn't write it.
9:25.
Okay. Out of executive session.
Yes, out of executive session, I would like to make a motion to accept the resignation of Lucas Dreesen and Kyle Vandenhall.
I'll second it.
Okay, we don't need any discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried.
Always wanted to do that. No, seriously.
That's okay to disagree. Why we're here.
All
I
right.
wish it would come to that as well. No.
So is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. 9:42.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Don't do it, Carrie.